than Amalgamated Sugar when first constructed. We know that it looks much more clean. Gone are kind of the days of smokestacks and industrial activity of the 1940s and 50s, but much more focused on a clean environment with food processing, research and development. We have companies in Nampa that are developing autonomous vehicle technology and electronic manufacturing components used within TSA screenings, but you would never know by just driving by. As we look at some of the industrial compatibility and buffering, Nampa has a lot of examples of areas that contain a mixture of uses where industrial is in close proximity to residential. Current city code has a variety of requirements for landscaping, and here are some pictures that you can see Plexus from Google Earth, where they have the landscaping buffer and roadway adjacent to residential. And then also newer development, the Anacher Company constructed this 90,000 square foot, which is kind of the bottom right-hand corner picture with the less mature landscaping in front of it. And then certainly we have the On Semiconductor in the top right corner there, where they are doing a lot of research and development activities. As part of the application process, we've talked extensively with planning and zoning to look at what are some of the best practices for landscaping buffering in close proximity to residential uses, and put together a plan for recommendation that would require berming and landscaping requirements specifically on Midland and adjacent to residential near Northside Boulevard. I believe at the planning and zoning meeting there was discussion about including it specifically just on Midland, but would also recommend council consider it in adjacent to the residential subdivision on the corner of Northside and Ustick. This would also be consistent with the conditions that previous councils have put on a 50-acre industrial annexation on the corner of Birch and Madison just within the last couple of years. Here's just a graphic that you'll probably see within the planning and zoning package as well that shows kind of that 20-foot landscape buffer and berming and how it could be placed between the industrial development and the residential uses or roadways. And I know that some residents I've spoken with have requested the potential for a 200-foot landscape buffer. The challenge with this site in particular is that there are multiple property owners who have come in as part of one application with various sizes of parcels. For instance, one of the parcels adjacent to the south side of the subdivision in the northeast corner by Northside and Ustick is only 470 feet wide. So to take 200 foot of this parcel would be considered a taking and eradicate the potential development opportunity of the 9-acre parcel. The 200 feet represents a much larger setback requirement and would also encourage kind of design functionality where you'd be more likely to have drive aisles and outdoor storage abutting that residential uses as opposed to a side or frontage of the building. So we would not recommend the adoption of a 200-foot landscape buffer, but instead keeping consistent with what has previously been approved for industrial uses adjacent to residential with a 20-foot depth berm that was 3.3 feet high. That would certainly include landscaping and trees. I wanted to show you a picture. This is a picture of Autoval. This was a project that was approved last year and has been under construction, and they're finished most of their construction to date. But this is a picture taken from a video that ESI did a few months ago before the weather got nicer and they could finish their landscaping. But you can see that this is along the Purdom Drain, I believe, that has residential just to the north of it and will include that landscaping component, but it's actually a very attractive building and is an example of kind of what manufacturing looks like today. It will employ 300 plus high-skilled individuals working in a very automated facility with very minimal exterior impacts, and it's something that we would likely consider for this area. Just looking at some of the economic opportunities for North Nampa and why it's important, there are a lot of reasons that this area is a prime location for industrial development. There's certainly the logistics and transportation benefits to these properties. It's within 2 miles of 2 different interchanges with I-84. The Union Pacific Rail Line has a spur that runs through the properties. And then utilities have been master planned to provide services to a heavy water or wastewater user, such as a food processing entity. There are also plans in place from the wastewater treatment plant to be able to service the area with Class A industrial reuse water from our treatment plant. And this could help in us being able to recruit heavy wastewater users such as plastics industries or data centers. And our targets for industrial development really are focused within food processing and electronic manufacturing, but also in the growing areas of robotics, automation, and recreation technology manufacturing. And Cordova Coolers and Heartland RV are just a couple of examples of kind of the rec tech industry within Nampa. I want to emphasize that there's currently no specific development projects waiting for this annexation. But I do know that over the last 10 years, as we have put forward this area for various projects, that we continue to kind of fall behind our neighbors who have property that is already entitled and ready to go. As you know, the process for entitlement takes up to 6 months or longer in some cases, and time is frequently one of the most critical factors that companies identify when they're looking to locate a facility. First and foremost, we get asked for existing buildings. Secondly, we get asked for land for build-to-suit projects where everything is ready to go. And we know that this will be a critical element as we move forward. I did want to touch a little bit on the partnership that we've had from the Nampa Development Corporation and also emphasize what Councilmember Haverfield expressed earlier. Both Councilmember Bruner and Haverfield did recuse themselves from any discussion or activity relating to this annexation request and support from them. They are the urban renewal agency for Nampa and have identified this area as a project for them to fund. This last fall, in conjunction with our board chair, David Bills, staff put together a meeting with all of the property owners and their representatives to discuss future developments and next steps. It was at that meeting this last fall where property owners expressed interest in moving forward in a collaborative application. And each property owner has been operating independently in their participation. They all have their own representation for real estate listings and are seeking to sell their properties. They have not formed any type of contractual agreement to see the properties as one listing, and they are all individually owned, with some owners having parcels as small as 9 acres. But through the collaboration provided by NDC, we are hopeful that we can move this property forward. NDC has contracted with engineering to do a design work to bring utilities down Ustick Road, specifically the sewer, from Northside Boulevard toward Midland that would service the entire area. And just kind of as a final recap, the area outlined in red is the area under consideration today. The property directly north is already zoned industrial through Canyon County, and the property to the south is zoned for industrial uses, and the area has been targeted for industrial development for more than a decade. This is really the only area in the community where we have more than 200 acres of ground available in close proximity to city limits, with good transportation access to the interstate, utilities to close proximity, and a funding mechanism in place to work with development projects for utility implementation. As the Economic Development Director, I view this request for annexation zoning to light industrial as a critical element in our future success of expanding our economic base with the growth of high-paying jobs and a strong tax base. Thank you very much.
Mayor Kling.
Thank you. I forget to unmute. Beth, thank you for that excellent presentation. I appreciate it. Okay, so council, do you have questions?
Mayor Kling, I have a question for Beth. Beth, in the recommended conditions of approval, it indicates limiting land uses allowed in the light industrial zoning district. The request is for the IL or the IH. Can you state if there's any reason why the heavy industrial would be a limitation, or allow the IH and limit it to only the uses allowed in the IL?
Mayor and Council, I feel very comfortable with limiting it only to the uses in the IL. The major kind of categories of manufacturing that we look to target as an economic development office are all allowed uses within the IL. And in fact, the IL gives a little bit more flexibility to the property owners to be able to have uses that, such as a convenience store, gas station, things that would be complementary to employment bases like manufacturing, but also kind of give that bridge between commercial and industrial.
But from a development standpoint, you don't think there's anything that we would be giving up by not allowing the IH, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Are there any other questions for Beth at this time from council? Okay, Beth, thank you very much. As you know, you'll be back, right? So Rodney, did you have anything additional to add to this presentation?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Need just a second. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that screen.
Yes.
Okay. Mine is not moving.
Are you able, if you can't get it into presentation mode, are you still able to move between your slides?
Let me try it after I've closed that other one. Here we go, I'll try that. Well, I'll just have to move through the slides. I'm not sure why it's not working. Okay, so I think Beth has done a really good job of highlighting the purpose behind this, the benefit to the community. I would like to just cover a couple of things in addition to what she's covered. The comprehensive plan, if I can't, I'm gonna have to move things around, I think. Darn it. Well, let me try connecting again. Maybe that'll. Right, well, I might need to just move things aside. Okay, so the comprehensive plan shows it. It did, when it came into the city, it came in under the old comprehensive plan that had heavy and light industrial. So you can see the heavy industrial in this kind of darker gray here and here. So the application came in and fit that exactly. So their request for annexation, the zoning matched that designation on the comprehensive plan exactly. So heavy and light industrial. Then in the process, after this went to Planning and Zoning Commission, the City Council adopted the new comprehensive plan, and it converted that all to industrial. So now that everything that was shown as blue here was requested as heavy industrial, but is now able to be either heavy or light industrial. And I'll highlight that in another map in just a second. Okay, so this is, let me see if I can align this so that you can see how this goes together. So there was some concern at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting that we weren't able to show aerials of the latest subdivisions that are encroaching into this area. The ones here listed above Cherry Lane and even south of Ustick are Caldwell subdivisions, and the one here, Still Falls, right off of Cherry Lane, is kind of a V-shaped subdivision there. That is in the city. It was originally developed as a county subdivision, and then got brought into the city at a later time. This one over here is Northside Estates, to the northeast of the subject property, and that was also developed in the county. It is not annexed into the city, so it's still a county subdivision. And we had quite a few comments about that one at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So the ones I've highlighted with bubbles here, Adams Ridge subdivision is a new subdivision, Caldwell subdivision, that comes over about almost to a quarter mile from Midland Boulevard. And then Arbor subdivision is north of this property, and it comes off of Midland Boulevard. The access is off of Midland. Okay. As you can see, there's quite a bit of farmland, and then a few rural subdivisions in this area, and rural residential properties, large lot properties. But there is quite a bit of industrial properties to the south as well. Okay, so this is the new comprehensive plan, and you can see here that it is all industrial. So this would allow the applicant to zone this as all light industrial, whereas before the 2012 comprehensive plan did not allow that. And I've tried to highlight some of the subdivisions in that area again. Right here in the center, almost in the center of in the center of the screen, is the property that was recently approved by the county as a concrete batch plant. Some people were concerned that the city made a comment on this request. So what happens there is the county, whenever a development happens or a change in zoning happens, they'll contact us and ask us our input. And all we do is we look at our comprehensive plan that has been adopted. And at that time, the comprehensive plan said it was industrial in that area. And so we made that comment that that use was appropriate for our comprehensive plan. We don't look at the specifics of the project in detail. We just match it to the comprehensive plan. I also want to highlight just to the south is some community mixed use along Midland, in between Still Falls and Midland. That is intended to be kind of a buffer. At one point in the past, that was all zoned as industrial, including Still Falls, or excuse me, the comprehensive plan designation was industrial. We changed that in the 2012 comprehensive plan to match the existing residential in the area, and then tried to provide a buffer with the community mixed use in this latest comprehensive plan. Okay, so this is back in 1994. I just want to show the progression of the comprehensive plan industrial areas. In 1994, our impact area boundary was the pink line, and it extended to Cherry Lane, and we designated that as industrial. The green area was county ag designation. It wasn't in our comprehensive plan or our impact area. Okay, so in 2004, we had already had, in 1999, there was a comprehensive plan amendment or a comprehensive plan update where we took that industrial all the way to USTIC. In 2004, we extended that even above a half mile north of USTIC between Linden and USTIC, so that our comp plan went all the way up there. And that was designated as heavy and light industrial at that time. So the lighter gray is the light industrial, the darker gray is the heavy industrial. Okay, so then in 2012, we tried to match the heavy industrial along large property lines rather than just straight lines up and down, north and south. By 2019, the county approved that concrete batch plant, and the yellow circle is where the general area of where we're proposing to, or where economic development is proposing to annex. So I've worked closely with Caldwell for their comprehensive plan, and as a result of coordination, because we knew that this would eventually go into industrial, they agreed to designate this area along Midland as a commercial area, acting as a buffer between their medium density residential and their low density residential, such as the Blackhawk subdivision. Okay, so this is the existing area zoning in the area. IH to the south and IL to the south, RP on the other side of Midland. So no utilities are immediately available. Annexation is necessary to bring the utilities to the site, and they're working with the NDC to do that. I think all of this other information is in your packet. There's the timeline. I've already walked through that, so I'm not going to recover that. So the public hearing was held on February 11th before the Planning and Zoning Commission. 3 people signed up for the proposal, 5 were undecided, and 75 were against. 32 people testified, and I have summarized their comments here as well as in your staff report. I'm happy to cover those, but there's a lot of information here that I know you've already heard and read through. So I can come back to this if you desire, but I'm going to move on. Maybe I'll just briefly touch on some of the major concerns. Traffic, concerns about schools in the area, and just the general area being developed as residential. There have been a lot of comments since then, and I've submitted those in your packet and by email today. So I did want to cover this. This was all those who signed up to speak. We've placed a dot on the map to show where they are and who was affected. You can see that Northside Estates subdivision to the northeast of the proposed annexation. That's a clustering of people that felt they were significantly impacted. Also to the west is the Caldwell subdivisions that felt like they were impacted as well. Again, this is a half-mile away from the Midland. The closest one would be, beyond a half-mile away. But there are subdivisions that have grown into this other area over here, and so it may be important for us to consider their impacts as well. Okay, so the commission voted to recommend approval, and has been stated, they agreed to recommend approval with the condition that it all be zoned as light industrial instead of light and heavy industrial. That was one of the major concerns from people at the commission meeting. They were concerned about smokestacks and noise and smells and environmental impacts to their health. The other conditions were from engineering, 50 foot of right-of-way. We also included that berm that Beth discussed along Midland Boulevard, and then all easements identified by Pioneer Irrigation shall be protected and noted on all plats. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. These are all in your packet and in full detail in the exhibits in your staff report. So new correspondence. I just wanted to highlight the new correspondence we've had since the commission meeting. We've had at least 23 other sources who have responded in opposition. But first of all, we had a letter of support from the NEMPA Development Corporation chairman of the board, noting their work to develop this area for industrial use. And then those 23 other sources of information reiterated a lot of the same concerns about heavy industrial uses not being consistent with residential, the concerns about schools in the area, traffic, a lot of those same concerns. However, there were also additional concerns here, and one of the primary concerns I heard was that this impacts them significantly, and there was a lot of frustration that we were proceeding with a public hearing via internet. I did want to speak to that briefly. We've allowed a lot of opportunity, including the option for them to come into City Hall, and I would set up a way for them to participate in this meeting. through our equipment. They could also call in, they could leave messages, they could send an email, a letter, or they could participate through Microsoft Teams, which a lot of people are doing tonight. There were concerns that the North Side Estates was only briefly mentioned in the Planning and Zoning Commission staff report, and no effort was made to buffer industrial from this subdivision. And that's correct. We have worked with Beth and the economic development team, and they have agreed that that is probably a good place for that 20-foot landscape buffer and berm to go to mitigate some of those concerns. Next, there was interest in providing an alternative land use plan for the area that would buffer from Midland with commercial and buffer North Side Estates with a bunch of residential up to the railroad spur. I guess I'd comment there that if that were to occur, that's a major change from our comprehensive plan, and that our comprehensive plan would need to be adjusted significantly to do that. It also, to extend the residential any further than it is just, in my opinion, it's extending it's just kicking it down the road when we're going to have to deal with this impacted residential and industrial conflicts in the future. Argument that the Nampa Comprehensive Plan does not support industrial land uses locating next to existing residential. The comprehensive plan does speak to this and suggests that we need to buffer them as much as possible to provide mitigation between those two uses. I think the berm is one way to do that. Next, the argument that the P&Z Commission staff report was incorrect in stating that the proposed land uses were reasonably compatible with the existing and proposed land uses in the area. I guess that's a determination you need to make, but that's a challenge that we will always deal with as we extend our city boundaries out into areas that have developed in the county, and you have to determine whether it's appropriate to do so. Concerns over the appearance of some of the land uses that Beth highlighted, like Go-Go Squeeze. They were concerned that some of the back areas where trucks come in and trailers come in, there's stacking of pallets and other concerns about visual impacts to residential. There may be some ways to address that, including the berm. Concerns that some light industrial land uses are more heavy industrial in nature and should not be approved. I have submitted in your packet a list of light and heavy industrial uses permitted and conditionally permitted, and it is up to the council to determine at this time if you would like some kind of a development agreement to limit those uses. You could identify a specific use that is not appropriate in this area and make that a part of your conditions tonight. Okay, I think I've basically covered this as we've gone along, but basically I believe this is consistent with our comprehensive plan. It follows our long-term strategies for economic development. We've been identifying this area for industrial use for a really long time. However, it does have impact to some existing residential, and there may be some ways to mitigate that impact. I've put some of those in the recommended conditions a little bit later on. So these are the recommended findings. Basically, to annex it, it has to be contiguous to city property, and with the entire area identified annexing, that would be contiguous. All of them would be contiguous at that point. The area has been in our comp plan. It's reasonable that this will be developed into our city. The zoning conforms with the comp plan, and the property owners requested the annexation and zoning. There was some concerns from property owners in the area that the city of Nampa would force annexation. We indicated at the commission meeting that that is not the case. The city does not typically force annexation. In fact, I haven't seen it for a very, very long time. So we typically wait for property owners to request it. So here's some recommended conditions: the 50 feet of right-of-way, a berm, and I just put in here this afternoon that berm could extend to that North Side Estates subdivision and anywhere else that it's residential, if that's what the council wishes to do. And then all easements identified by Pioneer Irrigation noted on the plats. And this is a potential motion for you to consider and add any conditions that the commission or the council wishes. And I would stand for questions.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Rodney, the batch plant that you mentioned earlier, is it in the, can you point where that's at?
Yeah.
Is that in the area of impact for the city of Nampa?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, but yet they chose to stay in the county?
They did. At that time, they were not contiguous to city boundaries.
Okay. But the mere fact that they moved forward, was it with a conditional use approval through the county?
I think it was a rezone. Yeah, I believe it was a rezone at that time.
Okay. For it to eventually come into the city of Nampa, though, it would have to have a conditional use approval?
A batch plant, so it wouldn't, because it's an existing use. So if it were to come into the city, it would be annexed in, and the use would be grandfathered in, basically.
Okay, so that would be something we would look at down the road once it became contiguous and if that was their desire. But at this point in time, if a similar type of a use wanted to be a part of this development, it would have to be by conditional use, correct?
Let me look through that in your staff report.
It states in the IL and in the IH that it would be a conditional use application.
Yes, then that is correct.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions from the council for either Rodney or Beth before we move into public hearing? Okay, hearing none. We do have a number of people that are signed up to testify this evening, and we're going to begin with a group that is in favor. And some of you I see wish to speak, not everyone, but I am going to go ahead and just go through the list as I have it in front of me. The first person that I have listed is Dennis Parker. I do not see that he's on the line, and I do not have it indicated that he wishes to speak, but he did wish to be noted that he was in favor of and supported this application. The second person that I have is David Johnson. And I believe that he is on the call, but I do not have him listed as desiring to speak. If I'm incorrect, you're welcome to unmute and note that you had desired to speak, but he has been noted as someone that is also in favor of this application. David Johnson, had you desired to speak?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to give you the opportunity since I did see you on there. The next person that is noted is Kevin Marshall. He has, and I'm not reading all the addresses, council, because we've got so many, those that are not speaking. If they wish to speak, I will ask you to go ahead and state your address and maybe what subdivision you live in and are representing. But for those that are not speaking, I'm just going through the names, and we have all of this information that if you do not have it, it will be provided to you. So the next person is Kevin Marshall. And I believe he is on the call this evening. I do not see that he had desired to speak, but he did desire to be noted in favor of the application. Mr. Marshall, would you like to speak or just?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. But thank you for making note of your support. Item number 4, or not item number, we're still on 4. The next person is Brad Miller. And Brad Miller, I did see Brad on the call. I saw his name and he did desire to speak. And so Brad, as you speak, would you please share go ahead and say your name again, your address, and I'll let you go. I think I saw you. Are you able to unmute? I see you there and I see you muted. So I do see Brad Miller here. Brad, are you there?
I'm trying to unmute. Did I work? Did it work?
You did, yes.
Okay, thank you.
There.
My name is Brad Miller. I'm with Adler Industrial. I'm the managing director, 10259 West Emerald Street in Boise. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council, for allowing me to say a few words here. Previous to working with Adler Industrial, I worked for Van Acker Companies for 25 years, so I have a fair amount of experience developing industrial properties around the valley. If you have tires on your car, they probably came from one of the Adler warehouses. If you eat tortilla chips, they came from one of our warehouses. If you eat sugar, it's in one of our warehouses. So we have a lot of different industrial uses that support the community. We own a piece of property on Ustick and the railroad tracks, which is part of this. And Beth made a very key point when she said that it's important that we have shovel-ready ground. Currently, we own quite a bit of industrial ground in Nampa, but believe it or not, it's being eaten up in a hurry, and we need additional industrial ground to be able to support the uses. We have 2 or 3 very large users in front of us right now who want ground, but they have to. Their time frame dictates that that they have to be breaking ground within 2 to 3 months. So we don't have the time to annex and zone property in preparation for these certain users. So it has to be ready to go. So that's why we support this application. We think it's a perfect opportunity for the city of Nampa to grow to the north. We think the land is laid out perfectly for industrial, and we're sure glad to be able to have the opportunity to develop in Nampa, and really appreciate your support and are glad to be part of the community.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I appreciate you taking time to join us this evening and share your opinions.
Okay. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay,
And
Council.
I do have a little experience with building industrial next to residential, so.
Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Miller? Okay, I don't see any, but thank you so much. Thank you for taking time to wait so long for a short testimony. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so the next person on the list is are the Devlins, Arlene and Dana Devlin. And I think I did see them online, but I do not have them. They're signed up in favor of and want to be noted as in favor, but I did not see that they wanted to speak. But if you are on the Devlins, is that correct that you prefer not to speak? See them. I see them on there, and sometimes it's hard to unmute, but they are present.
Yes, we're here, and we don't have anything to add other than we own the ground across Ustick and are in support of the annexation application.
Great. Thank you for unmuting to share that. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next person in favor is Sam McCaskill. And I did not see him in our list of people that are on the line, but he did want to be noted in favor of. If he happens to be on, you're welcome to speak up, but I don't think he is. So Sam McCaskill, and again, we have his name and address and has noted in favor of. Is there anyone else online that had intended to testify in favor of the applicants? Okay, I'm going to pause. Okay, so with that said, the next group of individuals that will be sharing are those that are opposed to the application. I am going to proceed in the same manner that I just went through. I've got people that are just noted. The only thing is I haven't been able to find everybody's names here. So I will pause just a minute for those that I understand want to be noted but don't want to speak. And then for those that do speak, I forgot to mention this, but we have 3 minutes, and typically my clerk, it gives you a sign. I will go ahead and just, since we're not together, we're in different rooms, I will go ahead and track the time. And then at about 2.5 minutes, if somebody's that long, I will notify you that you've only got 30 seconds left. But it is limited to 3 minutes each. And then if you're, you don't have to, because we have a number of people wanting to speak, please note that you're welcome to just support a comment that was ahead of you if you so choose. So the next person that I have listed, and this is the group in opposition, is Lisa Peterson. I don't know if Lisa's on. I do have her listed as wanting to be noted that she is in opposition. She is on Rosebud Drive, and but I do not have her listed as wanting to speak.
I'm here and I will speak if you have a minute.
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Thanks. I know it's time short, so I'll just try to make my statements quick. But I want to first point out that I do feel like it's a real big disadvantage to have this virtual meeting, just because it was previously mentioned that there was 75, I believe, at the last that planning and zoning meeting that showed up. We were all there, packed that building, and showed our opposition. I believe there was only 3 there that were for it. And so just seeing the amount of people that are on this virtual thing tonight, it's a big difference. And so I just want to point that out and hope that you guys can take that into consideration when you're voting on this. And then I noticed the map that was shown earlier. It's still not completely updated to show the current subdivisions that are going in right now on Ustick and Midland area. And there's a couple of large subdivisions, a Hubble Homes one and a Brighton Homes subdivision that are both going in right in that area of impact. And those are large subdivisions, and I did not see those on the map. And so if you drive up this road and if you were to see it yourself, you would see that it is highly, highly residential. And so putting an industrial in this area just it doesn't fit. We built our home. I live on 9921 Rosebud Drive, I think you mentioned. We built our home as a forever home with the intention to live here in this quiet, area, knowing that growth would come. We could see that would probably happen, but we didn't ever imagine it would be in the form of industrial. I know that I don't have a lot of time, so I just want to make my most pressing points, I guess. Some of the people that are voted for, they don't even live in this area. So it's hard for me to take that as, when you don't live here and you're not the one affected by this change, it's a lot, it doesn't impact you. So it's more about dollars and stuff. And so when you live here, I noticed a couple of the things that were referenced by the people that presented this as perks, such as the train track and jobs being brought to this area. Those are not necessarily perks for us. Our subdivision backed up right out to the train track. And one of the main reasons we built our home here, knowing there was a train track there, we built it because it's not used very much. When we first built here, we've lived here for 15 years. It's even now we hear it maybe it's like maybe once a week or something. It has gotten a little bit more recently. I don't know exactly why, but when we first, for the last 10 years or so, it's been maybe once a week that we hear it, and we can handle that. But if we're talking about putting all of this industrial into our area and using that train spur for this use, we will never have any peace and quiet. Sometimes those trains are at midnight or 2 a.m. and it wakes us up. And if that was to be happening every night throughout the night, or even during the day, and that would have a huge effect on us, as well as just our quality of life and our property value and everything. So I have much more I could say. I know that there's a lot of people that want to speak. I guess another thing I just really quickly wanted to bring up is that, the sugar beet factory has been here forever, and it was built. That's great, because it was built long before any of this residential. But when, now this is a residential area, and that just needs to be noted, that things have changed, and maybe this comprehensive plan, it's been in motion for a long, long time. But all of these residents have moved here under the impression of the kind of lifestyle that we want to live and what we appreciate. So anyway, I will leave I'll leave it at that for now and let some others have a chance to speak. But I just really, I guess, if anything, I am opposed to industrial at all, but definitely against heavy industrial. And if there is approval, that we could do some things to beautify and make it still this lovely place that we enjoy. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. So Lisa lives at 9921 Rosebud Drive. And what subdivision is that in?
It's the Rosedown subdivision off Midland and Linden.
Rosemound. Okay. Thank you.
Rosedown.
Rosedown. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. So I don't know, at this time, I don't think council, I'm going to assume you don't have any questions for the applicant. If you do, I'm going to need you just to step right in, because I'll move on to the next one. Not applicant, but the next public hearing individual. So the next person I have on the list is Eric Peterson at the same address. And Lisa, were you speaking on behalf of Eric, or is Eric actually, would he like to speak? I think I may see you there, Eric. Had you wanted to add, would you like to also speak?
His mute's on.
I'll tell him, hold on, he's in the other room.
Okay, I do see it, and now I can see it sometimes.
Now can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Okay, great. Sorry about that.
And then Eric, I forgot, so just so you know, you will have 3 minutes, and I'll try to interrupt you when you're right there.
No problem. Yeah, to be honest, mine won't take 3 minutes because, that was my wife that you heard from just previous, and she hit all the points that I wanted to hit. I did also, I wanted to just reemphasize the railroad that runs right behind our home. That could be a huge nuisance. And anytime you start dealing with industrial, I think that's one of the main attractions of it, is the fact that there is a railway, railroad right there. If all of a sudden we had a lot of heavy use on that truly would affect not just our lives and way of living, but a number of people's, because that goes right through, there's a number of people live in our subdivision as well that would be affected by that. But anyway, with that being said, like I said, I just reiterate what my wife said. I'm heavily opposed to this as well.
Eric, thank you to both you and Lisa. Thank you for taking time to join us this evening. It's appreciated.
Thank you.
So the next person is Nick Christensen. And I don't see that he had signed up wanting to speak, but I do want to give you that opportunity. Is Nick Christensen here? I don't see that you are, but I do want to make note that Nick Christensen at 17297 North Judith Avenue did sign up and is opposed to this action. The next person that I have down is Tori Bird. And I see that Tori, and I haven't seen that you're there, but Tori, if you can unmute yourself, and I do understand that you are opposed and would like to speak this evening. So let's see if Tori is there.
We want to stipulate that we are very opposed to the industrial development behind our residence. We have strong concerns about the North Side Road being able to handle all of this traffic. The traffic on North Side Road is treacherous at this point. It's dangerous to walk or ride a bike safely on North Side Road. The road is narrow. We have truck traffic to the sugar factory just south of us, to Nampa Paving, to Idaho Materials, to Old Castle Infrastructure, and we will also have truck traffic to the new Knife River batch plant on Ustick and Midland. We also have 2 new housing developments in construction north of Ustick on both sides of the North Side Road before the East Canyon Grade School. These developments will impact road concerns considerably before the zoning that you're considering here in this meeting. The North Side subdivision and these new housing developments are for family dwellings. Please recommend denying this annexation and rezoning request and suggest that Economic and Community Development Adler Industries and the property owners come back to you with a proposal that respects the basic planning tenets of compatible use and transition zoning. This proposal does not. Please respect our subdivision rights to enjoy our property. That is my comment. Strongly opposed. And I do not feel like a 3-foot berm that is 20 foot wide does anything to protect my property from the sounds, from the industrial uses that will be going on immediately behind my back fence.
Tori, thank you for speaking. Could I just confirm that you are this was Tori Bird and that you're located at 17787 Polera Way, is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and what subdivision is that in?
North Side Estates.
Estate subdivision. Thank you very much. Thank you for taking time to join the meeting this evening, and thank you for waiting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next person on the list is Brian Pearson, and I could not see if you're on, but I do have you listed as opposed, and that you do wish to speak this evening, and you're at 17754 Polera Way. So are you on the phone?
I am, Madam Mayor, yes.
Thank you. Go ahead and restate your name and address if I got it correct.
My name is Brian. Last name is Pearson, P-E-R-S-O-N, at 17754 Polera Way.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Madam Mayor and the council, for the opportunity to talk to you tonight. One of the things I wanted to point out is these are challenging times in terms of connectivity, and that's as evidenced by the way you're conducting the hearing. But I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I would point out that there is a Facebook group that's been established primarily to express concern about this annexation and redevelopment and development. It's got 190 members and counting. So, and the vast majority of them are opposed. So that's one point I wanted to make. Another is that it's been referenced several times tonight that there was a concession, seemingly a concession made by denying the proposal that originally had heavy industrial and instead recommending light industrial. It was referenced earlier by the gentleman from planning that the council members have in their packet the matrix of approved uses, the schedule between light and heavy industrial. And I want to point out that they are virtually identical. There are 3 differences in the conditional versus pre-approved uses. So in effect, with some very subtle differences, approving light industrial is synonymous with approving heavy industrial. There's no concession. So just think about some of the uses that you see on heavy industrial. I greatly appreciate Ms. Imus's the goals and the objectives. Matter of fact, the overarching objectives of economic development, but those were the idealized types of businesses that would come and develop these areas. This is going to be an opportunistic thing. So just envision some of those uses that you saw on light and heavy industrial immediately adjacent to residential land. So maybe the crux of my point, a lot of references to the comprehensive plan. In my written comments I submitted to you, there's a matrix that shows about 10 specific spots that I selected, and there are more, that the notion of industrial development immediately adjacent to residential development is against the fundamental tenets of the plan and contradicts what the comprehensive plan says. There are several spots that talk about the incompatibility of those uses from a light, a noise, odors, etc., that you simply wouldn't position and place those types of uses immediately adjacent to residential. It simply doesn't fly. As mentioned by the birds earlier, you think about those sorts of impacts: noise, smell, light, traffic, etc., and then think about the effectiveness, or the ineffectiveness rather, of a 20-foot wide, 3.5-foot high berm. A 3.5-foot high berm does little to mask stack pallets or industrial fencing or anything of the like. What we had suggested was some sort of transition, and I realize that there's a Fifth Amendment provision against takings, and it was stated earlier that no one of the selling entities could be impacted by a widened berm. The council couldn't stipulate it, but I think there's, in this public-private partnership, there's an opportunity for those folks to pool their resources and come up with a pro rata sharing of the impacts of some sort of meaningful buffer around not only Northside Estates, but the other properties as well. It doesn't have to necessarily be at the expense and at the debiting one immediately adjoining parcel. I think there are other ways to go about this. My hope is that you would deny the proposal as written, and please take a look at your own comprehensive plan before you consider it further. Take a look at that matrix I provided you. The plan is brand new, and it is in conflict, direct conflict, with some of the fundamental tenets of your own plan.
Thank you. And I have to say, so Brian, I think your wife has signed up to speak, and I'm going to have to probably pull a minute off of her because I'd let you go a minute long as I was writing notes. So I apologize to everyone because I'm supposed to keep everyone on time. I was making notes, and so I apologize that I lost track of time. Thank you for your excellent presentation. It's appreciated, and thank you for the time you've spent in communicating and commenting. So I think we've got a Cindy Pearson, and then I guess Council, I'm going to assume you have no comments or questions. Okay, so Cindy Pearson is next, and is this a relative?
Cindy Pearson is here, and I am Brian Pearson's wife.
Okay, I didn't want to make an assumption, so I'll probably give you 2 minutes because I gave him an extra 1. So anyway, go ahead.
Okay, of course I agree with everything he said, and of course he's got into the technical part of it. I would just like to point out to what I've seen happen here in Nampa, north of the freeway. It's been a beautiful improvement of when people come in off of the freeway onto Midland. They see restaurants, gas stations, a new hospital. You go on up north, you see new subdivisions, new schools, 2 elementaries, Sage Valley Middle and Bridgeview High School. And now we're wanting to plop industry right in the middle of that. And I just would really like to encourage the city council to reject this proposal for industry for the entire parcel that we're talking about, and have the developers have to come back with a transitional zoning of business that would be accommodating and compatible to the residential areas that are surrounding these new schools, and that the industry would be anchored to the sugar beet factory in the south instead, but have compatible businesses around the residential areas.
Great, Cindy, thank you so much. Is that it?
That's it, thanks.
Okay, Cindy, thank you very much. We appreciate you and your husband taking time to join us this evening. The next person that we have listed is Amy Miller. And Amy is opposed. She's at 10555 Hackberry Court. I do not see that she had wanted to testify this evening. Amy, if you are on, am I correct in that? And I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't see her. So Amy Miller is duly noted as opposing the application. The next person that we have down also opposing is Michael Wallace. Michael is at that same location at 10555 Hackberry Court, and he's noted as opposing, but I did not have him listed as wanting to speak. So unless you're on, and I'm not seeing you there, so we will move on, but you are duly noted as opposing. The next person that I have down is Brian Lovell, and he is also opposed, and I do see him listed as wanting to speak. And let's see if you're here. Mr. Lovell?
I am here.
Okay, do you mind going ahead and stating your name and your address?
Absolutely. My name is Brian Lovell. I live at 7351 Bay Meadows Drive. I'm in the Sunset Oaks subdivision off of Birch, and I get my streets in Franklin.
Okay.
So I'm going to share my screen here. And what I'm going to share with you is something that I've put together and shared with a lot of people. And then I'm going to have just a couple quick remarks at the end. What you see right here is basically what's been stated, right? You'll see in the red area, do you see the screen right now?
We do, and thank
Okay,
you for
perfect.
being ready. Great job.
So you have the red area, which is the area that's considered an annexation. This industrial area was just recently approved. I'm not sure exactly the date, but in the last few months, I know that. And then you have the cement mixing plant. And then down here, you have the industrial areas down here. So what I'm going to show you is, first off, you're going to see you have your mixed commercial use for the city of Caldwell. You also have community mixed use over here, zone business park down here. And then the next thing I'm going to show you is the schools and the hospitals. So you have your elementary school here, your middle school here, which is Sage Valley Middle School. Then you have, and forgive me on the names, I didn't get them all in here, but you have an elementary school up here, a church building here, and then you have Ridgeview High School, over here. The residential zones is where it gets kind of overwhelming. So this shows you areas that have already been approved for future building of residential zones. To the best of my knowledge, these should be almost exactly with the city of Caldwell zoning, as well as what has already been approved. These areas here have been approved by NAMPA for residential zones, as well as coming over here. You'll notice in this, and this is in your packets as well, that I had sent on Thursday morning. I missed the cutoff, so hopefully you guys have all received that in the council. But then we have this right here. The county approved this back in 2002, 2003, and homes were starting to be built in 2004, if my numbers are correct. If I'm wrong on that, it should be very close to that anyway. I point that out because what's happening here is nowhere in the city of Nampa have I found where industrial zoning comes up against 1 acre properties. Now, these properties aren't your mobile manufactured homes. These are homes that probably, and I didn't get a chance to look through them all, but they're $400,000 plus value properties on assessments. And what's this annexation is doing is it's going to kill the value of these homes, because anyone in that price bracket isn't going to want to be backed up on high industrial. And that's one of the greatest concerns we see. Obviously the traffic and everything. And then I'm going to show you this. This is the kind of the proposal that we've put out there. It's not an exact fit, we realize that, but what this does is this protects the existing homes that are already in place, providing a buffering of a new residential zone. These people would already be aware that these industrials are there, and then a privacy berm that would give some privacy I agree. I think a 3-foot berm isn't very much when you're considering between light industrial and heavy, or light industrial in a residential zone. So I hope you guys all got to kind of take that in there. So let me minimize this here and come back to this, and then I'm just going to give you some quick closing remarks. I have a lot more I could share, but time just doesn't permit it. So let me close that. So just in closing, I want to say the current plan for the entire zoning, this annexation to high or light industrial zoning, does not conform to approved or the pre-existing developments of the surrounding areas. Those who have moved forward with this plan have not seriously accounted for the impact their decisions will have on the positive quality of life as resale value of neighboring homes. In the comprehensive plan, page 12, under the City of Nampa statement of purpose, we need to remember to protect the positive qualities and characteristics of neighborhoods. Having industrial zoning back right up to the 26 lot, 1 acre properties with homes does not protect those qualities. Yes, businesses is what brings in the cash flow. A community cannot thrive on residential properties alone. A compromise must be reached in order to accommodate the needs for growth, but also serve the people who make this community such a great place to live. Please note that the 3 minutes permitted could never contain all the information that I would like to have included. It is my hope that the City Council will hear the disapproval of the citizens of this community and require that further adjustments be required to the proposal so that this area can be more of a transitional area and further protect the existing communities that have been around for many years. I thank you for your time and appreciate it. I am sharply opposed to the current plan, but I also realize that there is a need for growth. And I think there's a compromise that can be formed between the communities that already exist and the desire of this annexation. Thank you for your time, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lovell, for that excellent presentation. I appreciate the professionalism and all that you shared. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you. So the next person that is signed up is Michael Wallace. And he has signed up. I do not see that Michael Wallace has signed up to speak, and I'm going to try to look through my line real quickly and see if I see him. And I'm not. And if I miss someone, please note, but I do not see that he desired to speak. Michael Wallace is opposed, and he is actually, we have him down here twice. So we've already covered Michael Wallace because I did that earlier. So let's go down to the next one. Eileen Michelson. And I have Eileen down as opposed. She's at 9502 Ustick Road, and I do not see that she had desired to speak. If you are on, I'm not seeing, well, I see Robert Michelson, who is listed a little bit later. So, you know what, Robert, why don't we go ahead and skip to you? And I don't see that you had desired to speak, but I do see that you're on, and I do note you as opposed, both you and Eileen. Would you like to speak?
I would, Mayor. Thank you for your time, all you do, and the council members. I don't know if I tried to open the video. Sorry, I didn't plan on doing video. Anyway, I wanted to show you. What's that?
Good for you. You got it. And so I'm going to say you and Eileen both reside at 9502 Ustick Road, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. You can go.
I wanted to show you a video because as the mayor, I think this is awesome for you to know. My wife took some classes at CWI learning some sign language. And I don't know if you know, in sign language, you use your thumb under your 2 fingers. That's and the sign for, you know, people that do sign language give signs for different names of states or places or names or whatever. But there's a sign for Nampa. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, great. I'm going to teach it to you. You take your 2 fingers and you put it over your nose. And I think that the sign people have done that because of the smell of the sugar beet factory. And I oppose this decision to change some of this commercial zoning because I don't want this area in our community to to smell. I don't want my home to smell. I don't want our area to stink. And I don't want the people and communities around us to think that of Nampa. I love Nampa. My wife and I are very invested in this community. And so we strongly oppose this annexation. Rodney mentioned earlier in his report that Still Falls, when it was zoned industrial, and then the county allowed it to be residential. And when they did that, they protected the neighborhood with a mixed use zone. Something that I think many of us tonight are hoping for is that you would consider doing some of the similar things. There's a lot of residential properties here, some expensive residential properties here, and we would ask that you just protect it. At the previous planning and zoning meeting, only 3 people came and were for this change, and to have over 75 people against it, I think it's horrible. The voice of a few can dictate decisions for the many. And tonight and that other night that we had this meeting, there are many people that oppose this. And I hope that you hear the citizens of our community. We strongly oppose this. We don't want it, and hope that you'll listen to us. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you for joining this evening. Appreciate it, and your sign language.
Now you know.
Yes, thank you
I
so
hope
much.
I did it right. My wife might correct me. I don't know.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next person on our list is Chelsea Sherbel. And I do not see that she signed up to speak, and I don't see her name. So Chelsea, if you happen to be on and intend to speak, please go ahead and interrupt me. I see Chelsea's address is 10543 Hackberry Court. She is here representing her HOA or neighborhood group, and she is opposed to the application. So that is duly noted. And Chelsea, do you happen to be on? Okay, so I'm not seeing that she is, but your opposition is duly noted. The next person that I have down is Julie Butler. And I don't see, Julie, are you on, Julie Butler? I'm sorry, this takes just a minute and I want to go through quickly, but I also want to make sure that we give opportunity. I don't see Julie, and I did not have her signed up to speak, but Julie wanted to be noted as she's only in favor if it is light industrial. So her comments are she's in favor, but only in favor. Actually, she's only in favor if it is light industrial, and I do not have an address. The next person that I have down is Howard Pennington. And Howard, I don't know if you're on. I don't have you listed as wanting to speak, but I'll pause for just a minute. Is Mr. Pennington on? So Mr. Pennington is located at 10123 Elvera Lane and in Nampa, and he wanted to be noted as in opposition. So as I look at the list, I believe I have covered everyone that I had signed up that we had listed as wanting to speak. I do want to pause and say, is there anyone on this evening that had intended to speak on this issue tonight that we missed? And if so, about the only thing you can do is unmute yourself. I'll pause for just a minute. Okay, I believe for council and for those that are online, I believe we have covered everyone. And Debbie, you can also, Debbie Rosen or Rodney, hopefully you've gone down the list with me. To my knowledge, I have not missed anyone, and that we've received the comments from everyone that had intended to speak tonight. So with that, I think I would like to, really because it's a public hearing, and at this point it is staff, it is Beth Einig and Rodney that would answer any questions, but let's go ahead and go to questions at this time, and then we'll close public hearing in a moment. So are there any questions for Rodney or Beth from the council?
Mayor, this is Darrell. Yes, I do have some questions. Let me first say that these are amazing folks and the time and the effort they put into this, but I just need some clarification. So Rodney, this is probably a repeat type thing. how long has this area, and realize impact area, how long has it been industrial again, as far as a potential industrial impact area?
Well, as far as we can see, I have documentation back to 1994 for certain.
Okay.
And back before that, the impact area didn't extend out to this area, not anywhere near it. But it did have an industrial designation in the north part of Nampa, but it just didn't go that far.
Okay. So I know you don't, this is probably more of a comment because I don't expect you to have an answer to this. So when these properties were sold by a realtor or whatever, any idea whether these folks were informed or communicated about that being the case? I don't know. Okay. Number two, how many as far as those who have spoken tonight in such a concise and articulate way, but how many of them are paying taxpayers of the city of Nampa?
Well, that's difficult to tell.
Yeah, are any of those subdivisions, maybe easier, are any of those subdivisions actually considered in the city of Nampa?
Primarily, I see that most of them are either the North Side Estates subdivision, which is a county subdivision, and then there's some from, I believe, Blackhawk. I really can't speak to every single.
Okay. So if you're living in one of these wonderful areas, which they are, you are not paying taxes to the city of Nampa, but you are receiving services from the city of Nampa?
That's not correct.
Okay.
Okay. So, Mayor, we may need to just redirect people that they can't speak again.
Okay.
Correct.
Well, I know if they're in the Caldwell impact zone, they would not, but I didn't know how far as police and fire and so on go out. Okay, because I don't have an answer to that. I'm trying to have that clarification. I heard one gentleman also say, and correct, and I know he cannot speak, but if you heard the same thing, but as a subdivision or whatever, if they wanted to increase the height of the berm or make it different, would that be a possibility that could be in part of the considerations?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I thought that was a great idea, as far as, especially if they're going to be within 20 feet, if they want to increase that berm. And I guess my final comment is this, and I wish I had an answer for this, but I know at least what I've looked at the impact zone, we have very few and far between areas of impact zone where Nampa can put light industry. And I know the most comments that I personally receive, I can't speak for the other council people, but it's property taxes. And I also know that residential, now high-end residential does help our property taxes. The light industry helps our property taxes immensely. And if none of these folks are annexed or paying taxes, I guess if I heard a decision from these subdivisions that they would like to be annexed, I realize Caldwell impact zone, that would not be possible. Then I guess I might have a stronger consideration if they can give our citizens of Nampa some property tax relief. But anyway, those you answered most of my questions. These are great people, and boy, if I was in their position, I would feel exactly the same way. But being a council person for the citizens of Nampa, those are the folks that I personally have to take care of and protect, especially from a tax-based standpoint at this point in time. So unless I hear something differently, I will be voting in favor of this proposal.
Rodney, this is Mayor Debbie. I have a question for you. The property that is, and I'm looking in the council packet at the document that has, it's indicated everyone that's in opposition of the people speaking of where they're located. So the subdivision that is at the northeast corner of this property, which is at the corner, I believe, of North Side and Ustick. What is the name of that subdivision?
That's the North Side Estates subdivision.
Okay. So, and then Mr., I believe it was Mr. Lovell spoke to reference Sunset Oak, but he did reference the berming around that and had some suggestions as to how we could better treat that particular subdivision. Was that the correct person that I'm thinking of, or was that someone else that?
Yeah, he gave the plan. He gave the proposed use plan.
Okay. He referenced Sunset Oak. Which subdivision is that?
I'm not positive about that one. Let me see
Mayor,
if I can.
And Rodney, Sunset Oaks is located on Birch Lane, south of Birch, east of Franklin Boulevard, by behind the strip mall there, the Birches. It's the subdivision there where there's the park. That's where that's located.
Okay, so a distance away. Okay, I appreciated this suggestion. Okay, council. And you know what is the will of the council? We can go ahead and close public hearing at this time, because I believe that we have, if that is the will of the council.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So with that, I know that we can still ask staff questions and have discussions. So I will leave it to council to ask questions or have discussions.
Mayor?
Rodney?
Oh.
Okay, so we'll go to Councilman Bauer first as he addresses Rodney, and then after that, we'll go to Councilwoman Levi. So go ahead, Councilman Bauer.
Well, I was wondering how reasonable that gentleman's proposal was to kind of have a compromised area that protects some of those higher valued homes. Is that, what's the probability of that happening?
Yeah, I completely understand it, and I think he had the right idea. Just personally, I mean, buffering residential from industrial that needs to happen somehow. I guess my concern is the extent at which that residential was proposed beyond its current placement. I feel like that expands the conflict. If you expand the residential area into an area that is supposed to be industrial, it creates more conflict than already is there. So maybe if there was some uses specific that might be a good buffer around those that residential area, instead of extending the residential beyond its current status, maybe that's a direction you could go. But I'm just a little hesitant on expanding the residential beyond what it is right now, because I feel like it creates problems in the future. In addition to that, our comprehensive plan was just recently adopted, and that future land use map was created with significant public input from Nampa residents and business owners and landowners who had this discussion about where should industrial go. Yes, we need to mitigate it as much as possible, the impact, but I guess my concern is that kind of discussion that would change the land uses in that area would require a new comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment. It goes beyond just a zoning approval and annexation.
Thank you, Rodney. Mayor, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. So was it Councilwoman Levi or Jean that had wanted to speak there?
It was
Mayor.
Sorry, it was Jean that entered, but I would like to speak, but it's her first.
Okay, so Jean, I apologize that I got your voice wrong. And so Jean, and then we'll go to Councilwoman Levi.
Thank you, Mayor. Rodney, reading through, clearly there's a lot of opposition, but it seemed to me that there was a lot of opposition towards heavy industrial and light industrial seemed to be a compromise. Is that an accurate depiction from all that you've seen and heard? It's hard to read through all and listen to the testimony because people are so rightfully concerned about what's going to happen to their property. But is light industrial seeming to be accurate from what I'm reading and hearing a compromise?
Mayor and Councilman Mucci, yes, at the commission hearing, that was seen as the compromise. A lot of people expressed serious concern about the heavy industrial uses. However, I will say that there were some comments about this evening that the light industrial zone does allow or does permit, sometimes primarily it's with conditional use permit, so that would require them coming back to Planning and Zoning Commission for approval. But they do allow some uses that seem a little more heavy in nature. I think some of them were like a feedlot. That is a permitted use with a conditional use permit in the light industrial zone. Is that what we're planning on? Is that the direction we're taking? Absolutely not. But I think that they have some valid concerns about allowing some light industrial uses that are maybe a little more impactful to residential than you would think.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Levi.
Thank you, Mayor. First, a couple extensions of appreciation. Beth, I really appreciated your presentation. It was very concise and well done. And on the surface, looking at this project, I applaud the NDC. It's a good project. It's a needed project, but I still have some reservations. And then Rodney, I appreciated the fact that you took the time to walk us through the history of the zoning of the area. That was so helpful, and I just appreciate and thank you for creating so many opportunities for our citizens and those in surrounding areas to be able to voice their opinions and give us their great ideas. Tonight, as I listened to people speak, they brought up some very valid points, and it was just well thought through, and I appreciate that. Beth, my first question goes to you. If I got this correct, you had stated that with the light industrial or the heavy industrial are both coming to that area, that it would create some high water users, and I hope I didn't put words in your mouth. Given that, if it is correct, how will this affect our city residents and water for Nampa and for our future growth?
Mayor and Councilman Levi, what I had mentioned was specifically in our wastewater treatment plant planning. We have planned for treating our wastewater to a Class A industrial reuse. So this would allow us an opportunity if we could attract a user, such as in the plastics industry, they use a lot of water for a cooling process, where they could utilize this amount of wastewater reuse in their processing. So they would not be using domestic water or clean water, essentially, right, that we use for drinking and food, but they would be using our wastewater reuse. So that was an opportunity that we have identified, obviously through a lot of planning efforts on the long term with the wastewater treatment plant upgrades.
Thank you for the clarification. So further on that, the other comment, I want to go back to what Councilman Brunner had raised about did the residents before they built, did they know that they were in an area that was designated for light or light industrial or heavy industrial? And my experience on both planning and zoning for Canyon County, and also just in common every day when I talk to our citizens about different things, and my own experience with the exception of maybe the past 10 years, when people are looking to purchase their homes, they typically do not even know to ask what the future land use map is around them, and they don't look at that, and it's not something that the realtors commonly know, and that's not disrespectful toward them, but it's not usually something that they offer because they don't know. I've encouraged people when they go to buy homes or property to seek out that very information, and if they aren't able to find it from their realtor, to go to City Hall or to the county so that they can make very well-informed decisions. Going back to what one of the gentlemen pointed out, and I appreciate the fact that he read through all of the differences between light industrial and heavy industrial, he stated that there were basically 3 differences. So that brings me to my next point, which expresses concern. When we think of heavy industrial, that automatically brings up an ugly visual to most people's eyes, and also, as the gentleman with the sign language pointed out, to a lot of our noses when we see pictures of high industrial areas. So it really is a legitimate concern, but I also have to take into account the pictures that Beth showed us of industrial areas and what that looks like in the years 2000. So, and when I take all this into consideration, and another comment that was made is the residents seemed a little bit more receptive to the idea of light industrial. So I'm wondering, if this were approved tonight, could we put conditions, or would it come back to the council at some point where we could say, yes, this is a good use? I know, because I know the difference between a CUP and then just what's allowed and an allowed use, but it is concerning to me when you are backing up to residents, when you are backing up to schools or in close proximity. What are we putting there that keeps them safe and also keeps the values of those existing homes up so it doesn't hurt their investment? So I take all of this into consideration, and even though they might not for the most part be NAMP taxpayers, we still need to be very mindful that when we make decisions, it affects the surrounding communities. And how are we going to affect the surrounding communities? Whether it be traffic, their future growth, their land values, etc. At this point, I'll reserve my other comments for discussion when a motion is made. Thank you, Mayor.
I have a question. I was just thinking, because Sandy, you said on Canyon County Planning and Zoning, and this is currently in the county, correct? Right.
Yes.
It's in the county, and we're looking at annexation and a consideration of zoning to light industrial. Canyon County Planning and Zoning did approve a concrete batch plant in this same area, which was heavy industrial. And I don't know under the county if it's in a CUP. For us, it would be a CUP. And so if we didn't annex and have guidelines to light industrial because it sits in the county, it sounds like actually the county could do whatever they wanted with it. Is that correct? Like do another concrete batch plant, as they've already done just north of this property. Am I correct in that?
First off, to answer the beginning, or maybe to give a little disclaimer at the very beginning, anything that comes before Canyon County Planning and Zoning that is in our area of impact, I recuse myself and I'm not able to be involved in that. And then there's also our commission is not always unanimous on the decisions that are made. So, right. And not offhand, because I did not do research ahead of time, I could not tell you how that vote came out. So taking that into consideration, we would go through the same type of a hearing process. There would be an applicant, they would have to come before the planning and zoning, and you would have both an opportunity for both sides to speak, and then a determination would be made. So it's hard to directly answer your question. I don't mean to frustrate you. I wish I could answer and be better prepared to do that, but I don't have the exact information in front of me.
Thank you, Sandy. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. My point and my thought in this is that even if we did not as a city annex and rezone and move forward, it resides in the county, and they could go through the same thing and end up with a concrete batch plant, which they already have.
And I respect your point, and I figured that's where you were going. I would also state, but I can't say for 100% that this would be the way it would be. Our commission is very respectful toward our existing residents. We want to hear both sides. We try to protect agriculture at the same time, but we also try to weigh that judiciously with the fact that we do need to prepare for growth, which goes back to my comment. I see that this is a good project. It's a good opportunity for Nampa, and this type of space is needed, but I tend to have reservations when it comes to the high industrial use side. But again, I go back to my point, when we only have 3 differences, that still concerns me, but I don't believe I was in support of combining the 2 to begin with. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Council, is there any further discussion?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
I'm just a little confused. Sandy, do you still serve on the Canyon County P&Z?
Yes, I do.
Is there a conflict of interest with your being involved with this discussion?
No, because as I stated earlier, anything that is in the impact area of Nampa, I recuse myself. And let me define recusal. Recuse mean, as the secretary, I read the agenda item in length, just like our mayor does for city council meetings. And then our chairman asks, are there any declarations or any reason that a commissioner could not be involved? And at that time, I will say, I need to recuse myself from case number such and such because of a possible conflict of interest. And then I totally leave the room. Okay. I'm not involved in anything that's going on. I don't come back and ask commission what happened, because we know at some point in time, this could possibly come before Nampa. And back before I took my seat on council, this was something that legal and I discussed in great length, because as Mr. Hilty stated, my elected position has precedence over my appointed position.
Thank you for the clarification. I just wanted to make sure, are you recusing yourself at the planning and zoning level at the county or at this level? So you've answered the question that you've already recused yourself at the planning and zoning level for the county. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So and if I might expound on that, Councilman, is so that when I'm hearing this tonight, I'm hearing it fresh and new. I have no prejudice. I've not heard anything before. I don't know if anyone came and spoke. I know nothing about it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion from the council?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Just as a follow-up to Councilman Bruner's comments, I am in support of this request as well. But I do believe that buffering with residential developments, whether they're Nampa City or Canyon County, I think there still needs to be a sensitivity given to residential properties that are existing. Obviously, residential properties in the future. My desire for this property would be to see an opportunity for Nampa to grow in light industrial so that we have live-work opportunities for our citizens. And I think that's the most important thing that we're discussing here tonight. As far as from a Nampa Development Corporation standpoint, that's been our goal, is to provide opportunity for business and something that would attract it here. So I would think that a motion, if it were made, should include proper buffering to the residential that has been stated tonight on that northeast corner. I believe that the buffering should include a berm and a wall, a fence, whatever it might be, but something that's more than just landscaping on top of a berm. I think it needs to be a little bit more defined. So that would be my desire if that motion were to be made.
Thank you. Rodney, could you go ahead and share your screen for the recommendation for, I think you had some language. Because at this time, it would be the time for council to make a decision on how they would like to move forward.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Sounds like I don't see Rodney coming back on, so.
Well, he's working to get his screen shared. I see him there, and so I think he's working to get it. But if you would like to move forward, Randy, please feel free to.
Well, I'm fine with proceeding with a motion, see if it'll get a second.
Okay.
I believe that the project has a lot of value to the citizens of Nampa. Light industrial would be the preference, it sounds like, from the staff perspective. And I would make the motion to allow the zoning to IL for the parcels as identified with staff recommended conditions of approval. But I would add to the conditions of approval better definition as far as street frontages, that there would be a 20-foot wide landscape berm provided without any parking within that 20-foot depth. It would be landscaping only on the road frontages. And then properties abutting residential developed properties around this development, that there would also be a 20-foot wide landscape berm that would be 3 foot in height, along with a 6-foot solid side obscuring wall that would be placed on top of that berm. So it'd be 10 feet off the property line to allow there to be landscaping on both sides of the wall. That would be my motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Darrell will second that. Then I have a discussion point following.
Okay, go ahead, Darrell.
And I think Councilman Haverfield, that is so important, and I appreciate you talking about no traffic in that area and whatever to protect these residences. The other thing, my question that I have, and it's maybe a Beth question, is we have 360 some acres here. Beth, can we not control what type of light industry comes closest to the subdivisions? Or do we, how do we control that, I guess is my question.
Mayor and Council, there's multiple parcels within this application. And so, I mean, if you wanted to put a specific condition on the approval of specific parcels, that would probably be the best way to do it. Or if you wanted to overlay it onto the entire area with the specific uses that you don't want allowed.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Councilman Bruner, have you looked at the district land uses for IL to see that there is considerable number that are conditional use only approval?
Yes, and that I have, but I don't have it memorized, of course. But that's what my concern is. So the conditional use permit, though, does not come back before council. That goes back to P&Z.
No. I believe, Rodney, are you on? Okay, so if you wanted to place a condition where it would come back before council, you could do that. The permitted uses are the ones that would be more of a concern if there was something in that list, because that obviously is permitted, would not have a conditional use attached to it.
So let me ask you, Councilman Haverfield, because I think you're being an architect and this is your area, big time. So do you have any concerns as far as with the permitted uses?
I think the buffering was the major concern that I heard of. Traffic that's going to be developed in and around this will be, they're going to have to provide traffic studies and road widenings based upon, the potential users. Right now, there's nothing defined going in that location. It's just the designation. So the main thing I'm concerned about is the buffering to the residential developments that are existing, the buffering along our road frontages with a 20-foot wide landscape strip that has no parking in it. I think that's important. As far as the conditional use applications, if it's your desire or thinking that maybe we should have those also come before council in this area, that would be the only thing that I would question. Is that your intent?
Randy, I would like that a lot.
Okay.
If we could make that possible.
Well, I'll amend my motion as previously stated, but to also include that any uses that are proposed in this new IL zone that would be considered conditional use would come before council.
And I will amend my second to include that.
And just for clarification, the permitted uses don't come back before council because they're permitted. Is that?
Understand.
Okay.
That's why I've asked you if there was anything in that permitted area though that you would have a concern for. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question? Should we have the opportunity to approve or review a development agreement regarding any stipulations with the projects that go on these properties to protect the residents? Could we request that? Because typically it would go through without, I don't think with, and this is something that I need someone to tell me if I'm incorrect on this, something could just go through without our consideration or to the impact to these neighbors. It would be nice to have, other than in addition to the CUP, the opportunity to review the development, having a development agreement associated that the council gets to review and approve.
Mayor, this is Darrell. I would totally agree with that if it's legally allowed.
Me too.
So, Mayor, this is Rodney. I guess I would look to legal as well on this, but I believe that a development agreement is typically only done at annexation and at rezone, annexation and zoning, or at a rezone of a property. I don't think we have the same capability to just require it for any future development to occur, unless you put that condition on it at this time with a development agreement.
And that was my thought, that we would require at the future sale. Now, this is also a question for Beth, because what we don't want to do is create such a cumbersome process. Because a development agreement, my understanding, is not a public hearing. It's that the council gets to approve the development. But this is all, we'll need legal to weigh in. But Rodney, go ahead.
So typically a development agreement is actually a public hearing. It's typically with the annexation. So it usually just goes right along. But yeah, I'd look to legal right now too.
Okay.
Mayor, keep in mind the conditional use process would require a public hearing.
Correct, but if we go into any one of the permitted uses, if we're wanting to help protect the environment, right, of our residential people and protect them, it would be nice to be able to approve from a design standpoint what's going in, that it's a nice project.
Okay, Mayor, I'll amend my motion then a second time to include that a development agreement similar to the ones that we just approved earlier this evening would include the development of a site plan for any permitted uses and elevation studies of what is proposed that would be brought before council in this industrial area.
Okay, for legal counsel, can you confirm, can we do that?
Certainly you have the authority to impose a development agreement at this time as part of the annexation and the zone designation, as Rodney indicated. What you're talking about is not a use of a development agreement I have seen, where there would be a case-by-case approval of development as it progresses in the future. And so we certainly could try to work on something like that. I think there generally is fairly broad authority under the statute for the terms of a development agreement. But I would encourage council to consider whether your concerns for the neighboring property owners and uses can be addressed through the setback and buffering type requirements that you were originally talking about. Those certainly could and probably should be embodied in a development agreement. But a development by development review and approval process would be unusual. I haven't seen it before, but I don't want to say that it couldn't be done. We could work on that.
Okay.
So we have Mayor, we have a motion.
We have a motion on the table and a second, and we are in discussion. And Randy, do you mind restating your motion?
My emotions?
Your motion.
I was going to ask Debbie, the city clerk,
yes,
to read back. Did my motion say 30-foot wide or 20-foot wide?
20, I believe.
20.
I wrote down 20.
How much?
20.
Okay, on the road frontage and on the abutting residential as well?
Yes.
Okay. The only thing I would think I would amend in that motion would be to make 30 foot along any perimeter abutting residential and then 20 foot along the road frontages. So Darrell, if you don't mind, I'll restate my motion.
I'm going to respect you totally if you can do that again, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to try. Okay, my motion is to approve the annexation and zoning to IL for the parcels as identified in our packet this evening, with recommended conditions of approval by staff, including within that a 20-foot wide landscape buffer along all road frontages that would be landscape only, not any parking or site circulation other than the main entry, and that there would be a 3-foot wide or 3-foot high berm in that road frontage landscape area, and then property abutting residential to the northeast or any other residential. I guess I'm not sure if there's any other, but at least to that northeast corner would have a 30-foot wide landscape buffer with a 3-foot high berm and a 6-foot high solid site obscuring wall or fence. And that we would have a development agreement that would be added to any parcel or any proposed uses that would fall under conditional use. That would include a public hearing and obviously information that would be provided to us. Mayor, just for clarification though, did you want me to include something as far as in the permitted uses? Because my original motion did not include anything in the permitted uses.
My thought was a development agreement with permitted uses to ensure the type of structure that went in.
So the development agreement is just for the permitted uses. Okay, and that would include a site plan and elevation studies of the proposed use. All of that would come before council.
Okay, and this is probably not proper protocol, but before I second that totally, can I have Beth come aboard one more time?
We'll have to see if there's a second.
Okay, I will second it and then have discussion with Beth then.
Sure. We can always pull the motion if it's wrong.
Okay.
I think we're good at that.
All right. You good at this point of time in the night. Beth, are we hamstringing you totally, or are we going to be able to accomplish this for the initial purpose of bringing in businesses?
Mayor and council, certainly my preference would be that you identify what in the permitted uses you would not like to see, and we just strike those all together. Okay. It definitely makes it harder for us to have to go back to city council, especially if there's any public hearing requirements. It creates a lot less certainty, and especially the companies that I work with tend to be very conscientious of confidentiality, and they don't necessarily want to go through a major public process when they are just seeking the due diligence pieces. So if it requires a full council approval for that use to be allowed before they are really willing to invest in a purchase sale agreement on the property, I'm afraid that we will lose those projects. But if that's what council desires to see this move forward, then we'll certainly do our best to achieve it.
No, I think your recommendation to go through the list and what's permissible and what. So what I'm hearing from you though, that would need to be done now before our final vote is taken. Is that correct? Maybe that's a legal question. I mean, that's not something we can pass now, then go back at a later date and go through those which are permissible and what are not permissible. We need to do that now.
I think what I'm hearing from Beth is it would be helpful to do it now. Beth, and I've been sitting here looking at it because I happen to have a hard copy in front of me. Beth, do you have any permitted uses that you would recommend not be allowed in this area based on your review? And I'm sorry, I'm you on the spot.
That's okay. I've looked at the list more for uses I would like to have in there. I have not paid as much close attention to uses that I don't think should be there. I can just kind of scan it quickly here and see if there's.
Well, we could do it that way. Then we could say our preferred uses are, and anything other than that would come forward. Could we do that?
So the main, Mayor and Council, the main uses that the projects that we look at fall into are within the 3 definitions of manufacturing. So there's manufacture, assembly, or packaging of products from previously prepared materials, manufacturing, compounding, bottling, processing, packaging, or treatment of food and beverage products, manufacturing, compounding, processing, assembling, packaging, treatment, or fabrication of the following products: textile, apparel, related items, building materials, furniture and fixtures, paper, chemicals, chemical products, petroleum, electronic, concrete, rubber, plastic, metal, professional and scientific, or any combination thereof, materials or goods. I mean, those 3 definitions of manufacturing fit most of the projects that we look at. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I mean, there's certainly kind of the warehousing and distribution aspects are also another important component.
What about cold storage, Beth?
Yes, cold storage is definitely something that would be applicable to this area.
So Mayor, does Debbie Rosen, has she listed all those items from a clerk standpoint?
We would have it per this recording, and it is written in front of. I mean, okay. It's in our documents.
So Councilman Haverfield, I personally like the mayor's suggestion of handling it that way, as far as what we would prefer, and if there's something that's not on that list, then it would go as your motion stated.
My question is now this lists planned unit developments for residential, and part of the discussion was that that would not be what we would try to encourage in this location, but that's an approved use under this IL zone. I was thinking kind of the other side of it, what would be limit or take out of the preferred side. So I was kind of thinking the other direction, and then we came back with the manufacturing. So I'm okay with whatever direction we go, but I think maybe the planned unit side of it. Beth, do we really want to allow the residential to go in there as an approved use?
Mayor and Council, no, that would not be my preference. And I wonder if perhaps, I know it's late in the evening and past my bedtime, but I wonder if perhaps there's an opportunity that we could table your final decision and staff could work through this list, knowing your thought process and where you're at, and perhaps come back to you with a recommendation for the permitted uses that could be allowed kind of with the annexation and zoning, and then specific uses we would take off the table altogether, and perhaps specific uses that we would leave in a conditional use permit capacity and bring those and require those to come back to council.
Okay, and Mayor, so we would not need to come back for another public hearing in so doing?
I believe that's right. Let's let legal confirm that. But I think what I'm hearing is we've completed the public hearing process, but we'll leave the final decision to the next meeting to where you can come forward with a specific recommendation that we can vote on. So Mark, legal, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. You've required a development agreement, and so staff would then put that together based on the direction that you have tonight. And then there would not be further public testimony, but you would make your final decision once you had a chance to see the document.
And Mayor,
yes.
This is Ronnie. And maybe this is a question for Mark as well, but I believe we could go ahead with annexation and zoning and then have as part of that condition that we come back with a development agreement, so that you're making a motion for annexation and zoning tonight with the stipulation that a development agreement be approved. Is that correct, Mark?
My recommendation would be to do it all at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
So
with that, Randy, my suggestion to you would be to go ahead and rescind your motion, and Darrell would choose to rescind his second, and you would make a motion to pause on the final approval and defer this to I would say the next meeting, council meeting, to make the decision on how to develop, to bring back this specific recommendation for us to vote on.
Mayor Kling, I'll rescind my motion as presented.
I'll rescind my second.
And I'll make a motion to postpone the decision on this till our next city council meeting, allow staff a chance to develop the development agreement for our consideration.
Second.
Madam Mayor, this is Mark. Just for the record, I think the law requires you to identify the date and time. I think that's June 1st at 7 p.m. So this hearing will be continued with public testimony portion closed until that date.
Well, the public hearing has already been closed.
I think we closed the public testimony portion. The hearing would typically be closed when the decision's made.
Okay, and then we had discussed doing it at the next council meeting, which would be May 18th.
Oh, my apologies.
Okay.
I skipped one. You're right.
Yeah, so May 18th. So are you saying that we need to change the motion, or is that just a discussion point?
No, I think you just need to add the date and time.
Okay, so the date and time is May 18th at the next council meeting. Mm-hmm.
So moved.
Good. Okay, so is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Machi?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bruner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so it's been another 2 hours, but let's go ahead, if you guys don't mind, and move into the next public hearing, and then we will take just a quick break if we need to before our the rest of our business, because we have a lot more to do tonight. So we are ready to move into our last public hearing of the evening. This is item 6.5 on the agenda. This is an action item, and this is a conditional use permit for a boat and RV storage facility in a community business district at 2219 Caldwell Boulevard. This is a 9.94 acre parcel of land in Nampa, and this is for Jeff Millick and Butch Henry. And is our applicant here this evening?
Yes.
Okay, and so could you go ahead and state your name and address, please?
I'm Jeff Millich, 815 Meadowbrook Lane, Napa, Idaho.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Go ahead.
I know that Butch Henry will have a little bit more information for you, but thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council members. I appreciate you re-looking at this project.
Are we in?
We feel it's a great project. Hey, Butch.
So I don't know if Butch knows how to mute, and so we can have one at a time, but we'll try. Go ahead, Jeff, and then we'll bring Butch
Mayor
back.
Kling?
Yes, who's this?
Mayor Kling? Are we there?
Yes, you are.
Rodney, are we there? I can't hear you guys.
Hi, Butch. Yeah, you are on.
Huh.
Okay, Butch, so you're on. Can you hear us now?
Can we hear you now?
Okay, good. So Jeff is actually beginning his presentation, and then you'll come on right after him as the applicant, as soon as Jeff is done.
What else to do?
Okay, so Jeff, go ahead.
Madam Mayor,
Hello?
City Council members, thank you for your time tonight, and thanks for reconsidering this project. I know Butch will be able to add to it after it, and Rodney will also. But just to make it short, I know it's been a long night. We have gone through public hearing with planning and zoning, and I know the city council adopted all of the requirements, and we've lived by all the requirements that in the land use also. And so we would just respectfully ask for approval on our CUP at this time. And I would yield my time to Butch.
Okay, thank you. So Butch stepped off, and I heard him drop off, I believe, because he could not hear. And so Rodney, I'll let you be watching to see if he comes
Hello?
back.
Mayor, he is back on.
Okay.
I'm Mayor Kling. I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. That's wonderful. Welcome.
Thank you. We've gone on for nearly 4 hours. So
I am so sorry. And thank you for waiting.
No problem. Technology is great when it works, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
Jeff just shared, and please feel free to share with us.
Okay, so what we want to talk about is the Karcher Boat and RV storage, and essentially we checked all the boxes. Okay, so the owners of the property understand the Fifth Amendment of the United States, and we're quite certain that now that the city of Nampa, as stated in the website, is that the land use ordinance, regulation, or decision, and this conditional use permit is a decision, is if it's so restrictive as to deprive an owner of economically viable use of the property, then the property has, for all practical purposes, been taken by inverse condemnation. So just want to frame my comments this evening with that, and then move right into checking the boxes. Okay, and we had sent over talking points to Rodney over the last 24 hours, and I hope you'd received those. But anyway, let's get to them. The land use of the property is in accordance with the requirements without any need for variance. Essentially, what we're saying that everything is a confirming use. Okay, so including the 150-foot buffers established by the recently modified requirements of the storage facilities related to the right-of-way are in place. And so we have actually prepared documentation that we have 150-foot buffer easement and parcel at the north end of the property along Caldwell Boulevard. We have the interior of the property, which is 8 acres, and then on the south end of the property is a 150-foot buffer parcel that is commercial property. Okay. The next item is traffic. Traffic use is softened by this proposed project rather than medium density housing or for the previous use, mobile home park. So we've heard a testimony in the past or questions in the past about softening of traffic. This proposed project softens the traffic. Further to traffic, access and egress are safely and appropriately provided through each commercial property, each lot, the lot at the north and the lot at the south, by easement. So we prepared easements for access, egress, and utilities through those 2 commercial lots. Next, the property is fully surrounded by commercial property, eliminating the special requirements for building heights. And let me briefly describe discussions with the contiguous property owners. To the east, we've had conversations with the Williamsons. Their land is for sale. They believe our project is needed, an excellent amenity for the surrounding areas. he would like to sell his land to us and become a member of our LLC. He thinks it's a fantastic project and has asked that we buy his project and expand the footprint of our project. That's not under consideration right now, but it's telling in that our neighbor would like to join our project, a longtime property owner at the location. To the south, there's a Priority Electric Incorporated, longstanding Nampa electrical contractor. They will purchase and develop the parcel of land that is on the right-of-way with Karcher Road. And Ryan Van Fleet, the property owner, is looking forward to the project starting up so he can begin the permitting process for construction of their commercial operations on that lot. And that is one of the lots that has an easement through it for access and egress. To the southwest, the auto repair shop owners have discussed our upcoming project and facility. They have been very cooperative and supportive of the proposed facility and see it as a complementary project to their commercial operations. Now we come to the west. We have met with the Karcher Moving and Storage folks on several occasions. We have initiated those conversations in an attempt to be neighborly. They claim they moved to Nampa from California recently, get away from the California issues of taxation and laws. When we've described our project and tell them how we find their property is complementary to ours, they say they don't believe us. And I'm not sure why. They've said numerous times they want to fight. And that's in quotes. They want a fight. We have attempted numerous times to be neighborly and work with the Nelsons, only to be confronted with confrontational attitudes and misstatements and mistrust. Their largest unit available on their website is a 10 by 12 by 12 for $68.58 a month. Our smallest, conversely, our smallest unit available will be a 12 by 30 by 14 unit for $245 a month. There is zero competition between these properties. Rather, they are complementary. Our facility starts where there's left stops or stops. And finally, to the north, we have discussed the project numerous times, the longstanding Wilson Auto operations. They have been incredibly supportive of the project. They find that upon completion and startup, it will provide a very needed amenity to the area, clean up the unsightly lot that was left behind from the Volvo Home Park, and provide a mutual business opportunities. Okay. Next, fire and safety are extended to property. So the design extends the fire loop from essentially from Karcher Road in through the property to Caldwell Boulevard. That fire loop allows fire service for not only our property, but the contiguous properties on the east side. So that's beneficial not only to our property, but to our neighbors. Utilities are tied into the public facilities where the previous property was standalone. So the previous property had a well site, had septic tanks, and so on and so forth. We're not part of the utility water system, the city of Nampa. So that brings additional fees and payments into the city with our project without additional use. Design and drainage structures create stormwater mitigation, ensuring all rainwater is retained on the property and does not contribute to the overflow of the public stormwater systems. So think about this. So we have a fortress around the exterior, fortress type buildings. Those roofs cascade into the center of our property. The stormwater goes into a downspout and gutter and downspout system, and then is sheeted across the asphalt into a drainage structure and is retained on the property. Conversely, some property that don't have this stormwater mitigation element would go into the stormwater system for the city and add unwanted burden on the stormwater system. So we've mitigated that with our design for stormwater mitigation. And then the facility improves the neighboring properties as it cleans up a 60-year-old dilapidated project with a new 5-star fully compliant and contributor to the public income without causing additional services requirements. So this project checks all the boxes. And we ask for your approval of our CUP. Questions?
Mayor, you're muted.
I got you, Rodney.
Thank you so much. I keep forgetting that. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Henry and Mr. Millick, I just want to say thank you for your presentation. And at this time, I'd like to ask council, do you have any questions for our applicant before we move to staff report? Okay, seeing none, the process will be that we will move to staff report. We will open up public hearing. At the conclusion of the public hearing, we will bring you back to give the final, as the applicant, you will have the opportunity to provide a final comment and we'll ask further questions at that time.
Okay.
So thank you. Feel free to mute and we'll move on to the staff report, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to try again to access this presentation. I'm hoping it works this time. Oh, good. All right. So the requested action before you is the conditional use permit for a boat and RV storage facility in a BC zoning district at 2219 Caldwell Boulevard. This is the only conditional use permit storage units that of any kind that would go to City Council at this point. Typically, these would go to Planning and Zoning, but City Council approved code change recently to require that all land storage units go to City Council for a conditional use permit. And the applicant has stated that their purpose is for boat and RV storage. The comprehensive plan shows this as a general commercial area. You can see that there. More detail there. It used to be a mobile home park. It's been cleared of that. To the north is BC Zone and Caldwell Boulevard, as well as Jensen Homes manufactured home construction. I think that's directly across the street. To the south is the RD PUD. It's the Galway Apartments. To the east is the BC Community Business Zoning District, and it's Christ the King Community Church, as well as Wells Fargo Bank and a vacant lot. To the west is Light Industrial Zoning District, Karcher Auto Body, Karcher Moving and Storage, Mini Storage, Weaver Distributing Fastener Supply. That's what they do. Red Dragon, I'm not even going to try that word. Martial Arts Studio, Western Recycling, Smart Food Service, Warehouse Stores, and Play It Again Sports. And that's going from the south to the north. You can see some of those buildings there. Here's a 3D aerial view. Again, this has all been cleared, ready for development. And as you can see there to the west is the storage units under discussion. Utilities are available. Access is from West Karcher Road and Caldwell Boulevard. So I placed in here the drawings that they submitted as part of this application. A little more detail here. I'll zoom in on this one, provide you some more detail. I've tried to list some things that they put there that were hard to read on this screen. So to the north is off to your left. To the south is Karcher, and to your right is Karcher Road. So they would have enclosed storage on the east side and open canopy in the center and open canopy to the west. This is rendering they provided. A little more detail. I just zoomed in on one of those. And a little more detail there. So applicable regulations, 1025.4 of the Nampa City Code sets forth the conclusions of law for the granting of a CUP. And maybe I'll just go over these in a little bit more detail in a future slide. But basically, these are the conditions that we have to consider if we are to grant a CUP. It cannot be based on competition with other properties or other businesses. And I'll go into that in a little more detail. So section 10.119 is what City Council adopted after the 6-month moratorium we had. We came up with some conditions. I will note that what is not on here and what Council directed us not to do is include a buffer between existing storage units. So that was removed from the recommendation from staff, and this is the result of that. So we have a conditional use permit that has to go to City Council. There is a possible setback of up to 150 feet from the right-of-way for any storage unit buildings. And that is, again, that is up to Council's discretion. So you could require 50, 75, whatever, up to 150 feet. That 150 feet is intended to be enough space for another type of commercial use to go in that 150-foot setback. Number A2 is a requirement of a minimum distance of 100 feet from any RS or RD zoning district and 100 feet from any existing residential buildings. B1, walls greater than 100 feet in length, visible from right-of-way, shall have facade changes. This could be materials and changes in plane, as well as colors and paint. B7, if it's public storage facility properties that are contiguous to RS or residential zoning districts, or that are located in a BN or RP residential professional zoning district, shall limit the height of storage buildings to 10 feet at the edge of eaves. So I just want to point that out. BN and RP are transitional zones between residential and commercial uses or industrial uses even. So in those zones, we wanted to limit those eaves to 10 feet. And if they're next to or contiguous to RD or RS. And I'll speak to that, the conditions of this property in just a minute on that. And then finally, C6 is a landscape buffer. Typically, we would only require 15-foot landscape buffer against the right-of-way, but with storage units, we require 25 feet of right-of-way, of landscape buffer at right-of-way. Okay, so correspondence. Nampa Engineering doesn't oppose it. They have utilities and access already to the property. They will require a tenant improvement permit though. Nampa Building Department, they need to follow Nampa Building Code in Title IV. Pioneer Irrigation District submitted a correspondence and just said that they've worked closely with the applicant to identify the challenges or work through the challenges of the north 15.0 north branch lateral, and they've worked through those issues. And then finally, I received public input from Rosemary Nelson, who owns the Karcher storage units just to the west. And she submitted her letter of opposition for the conditional use permit, and I've submitted that to City Council in your staff report. And I believe she's here in the meeting to speak to those concerns she had. Staff analysis. The applicant has stated in the intent to develop office or commercial fronting both Karcher Road and Caldwell Boulevard. They have submitted to staff documentation that they are splitting off 150 feet along Karcher Road, which would eliminate that need for a variance for the 10-foot eaves on their property. So because they've split that off, now it no longer has that requirement. I did mention several times, I've talked about the fiscal impact analysis for storage units. It basically comes down to that they're not the most beneficial to the city. However, they, depending on their quality, and especially if they're combined with office or commercial, they do provide a benefit to the city. It is an increase. It is, if you compare it to manufacturing or another commercial use, it is less, but it still is a benefit to the city. I put in here that you will need to consider the 150-foot setback from the road. I'm not sure how critical that is now with them splitting off that 150 feet of property along Karcher, but it could still be as part of your condition just for clarity. And then finally, because the property along Karcher is being split off, they will not need the variance. I've already talked about that. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the legal basis for approving or denying a CUP. I've basically taken the state and city code for conditional use permits and outlined the questions you have to ask yourself on, and then based on the answers to these questions, you can either approve or deny the conditional use permit. So I'm going to go through these. Is the proposed development compliant with the city zoning codes? Yes, it is. It's an allowed use. It's a permitted use with a conditional use permit in the BC zone. Is the proposed development compliant with the city's comprehensive plan? Yes, it is. It's commercial use and it is compliant with the code, with the comprehensive plan. Now the next three are more subjective and based on the facts that you are presented tonight and the testimony you receive from the neighbors and your analysis of the property. It's a political decision that staff is not able to make. So the third one there is the development's location, size, and design of the use going to adversely affect the livability or appropriate development of the abutting properties and neighborhood? Is the proposed development going to be inconsistent with the appearance of the area? And does the project enhance the area and its basic community functions? So those are the questions you have to ask in determining whether to grant this. Recommended findings would basically find all the answers to those questions, the legal basis questions, that they are compliant, that this fits this area. And then I have placed on the screen a possible motion for you to consider. And I would just note that in the staff report, I did not include this last statement in red, but I have added it to the slide tonight. If you choose to approve this, I would also recommend that you put as a condition that they are compliant with the attached site plan and renderings. And then I would stand for questions.
Thank you, Rodney. I appreciate your report and the detail in it. So, Council, do you have any questions for Rodney at this time?
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
Rodney, in regard to this being a BC zone, how much of this development will be subject to our Design Review Commission review?
Yeah, good question. Mayor, Councilman Haberfield, the project will need to go before the Design Review Committee. However, what they review is compliance with this conditional use permit and the city code 10119. So all those conditions about 100 feet in length, the setbacks away from the roadway, all those things, that's what they're reviewing. They will look at 100 feet of length of a building. They'll look at the differences in planes and materials, but they will not apply the basic standards of design review to this project.
When you say they won't apply it, why is that? Is because of the distance back from the major roadways? Or are we talking about them having to comply with the full east and west property lines meeting this requirement as far as wall changes in plane and color?
Let me make sure I understand that. So are you asking?
I'm talking about from the roadway on Karcher Road, you'll be able to see the front portion of this development. Will that be subject to design review, and approval?
Correct. Anything seen from the roadway will definitely be subject to design review.
Okay, and then the east and west property lines going north, how far up those property lines will they be subject to this same condition?
Yeah, anything that can be seen from the right-of-way, and that's not real clear to me at this point, but they'll have to show how they're compliant up to that 150, or excuse me, up to however far you can see to the north and south from the right-of-way.
Because I can see where the church is on the east property line, their parking lot that's north of that building, there's quite a bit of this facade wall that will be exposed to the view of those driving up and down Napa Boulevard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here.
So yeah, I can't put my cursor. My cursor's on it, but you can't see my cursor.
Yeah. Yeah, so that would be subject to design review.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions at this time for Rodney? Okay, see none. Rodney, thank you. We will be back.
Mayor?
Question? Yes.
I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button. I do have one question for Rodney, if I might, please. What are the future plans, or are there any for Caldwell Boulevard? Will it be expanded? Kind of what is that traffic like there? Again, because it meets up to that busy intersection, and I'm just thinking that if you have larger vehicles, slower vehicles turning in and out of this property, is that going to add to congestion? Is there going to be expansion on this road? Because I was looking for what ITD might have said, and I know I read somewhere that they need to work closely with ITD, but I just was wondering about the future of the road.
Yeah, Mayor and Councilwoman Levi, I did not receive correspondence back from ITD on this one. ITD has control of both Karcher and Caldwell Boulevard here, so they will need to work with ITD about their access, but they currently have access. And then last of all, I know that ITD they do have plans for Karcher widening. They've already done quite a bit down Karcher, and will continue to do that into the future. I can't speak to the specifics, but maybe Daniel Badger in our engineering department could speak to timing of when they plan to expand Karcher any further, as well as concerns about that intersection. Daniel, are you on still?
I am. Mayor, Councilman Levi, at this point, the state does not have any plans to widen that section of Karcher Road. It's fully developed at this point all the way out to Middleton Road. There's things in the works farther west past Middleton and Midway for widening along Karcher. As for the boulevard, the state does not have any plans to do any widening on Caldwell Boulevard. They're actually, we have been in some discussions with them about the potential of or their desire to get rid of the I-84 business loop and potentially turn those back over to local jurisdictions, which in this case would be Nampa. I don't envision that it would be likely that we would see anytime soon any widening on either Karcher or Caldwell Boulevard. They will likely need to get new approach permits and stuff for their development. At that time, the state will require any traffic studies that they may require. Based on our review of the development, the trip generation there would not trigger the city's policy for requiring a traffic impact study. As the applicant stated, the traffic generated by their proposed development is less than the mobile home park traffic was there previously. Hopefully that addresses your questions.
Yes, thank you, Daniel and Rodney. Appreciate it. And thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from council at this time? Okay, so we're going to move into the public hearing side of this. This is a public hearing, and we have a number of people that have signed up to testify this evening. For those of you that have been on for some time waiting for this moment, you're probably familiar with our process. Debbie Rosen, I need to ask you a favor. Could you do me a favor and actually time the speakers for me?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. I wasn't doing a good job of getting started and then notifying them. So if you could help me with that, I'll let you break in and notify them when they're at the end, or, you know, just ahead of 3 minutes. So we have a couple of people signed up in favor, one of which was Butch Henry, who has already spoken. Jerry Henry had signed up also in favor and had indicated she wished to speak at this hearing. So Jerry, and I'll say this for everyone as you come on, you can unmute your phone. Please state your name and address, and each person will have 3 minutes. So Jerry, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm going to just add a few more comments that Butch did not address in his comments. The first thing is the cost to build this facility and the adjoining commercial property is going to be in excess of $5.5 million, which is going to does create an economic benefit to Nampa in the form of capital being spent in your community, jobs in your community. We look forward to that. Nampa and Canyon County is growing rapidly, and new subdivisions and even maybe some old subdivisions do not allow parking of recreational vehicles in neighborhoods. This project positively impacts Nampa citizens by offering that solution to them. It's going to be a facility that everyone who lives in Nampa will be proud of. The perimeter of the buildings will be a neutral earth tone in color. It will be fully secure with commercial grade metal fencing and 24-hour gate access. It will include 100% asphalted drive lanes, security cameras, a dump station, potable water station, and washdown station for the recreational vehicles who are our targeted customer to be able to completely take care of and store safely their equipment that they cannot store on their property in their neighborhoods. So I want to emphasize that we are not interested in storing items of personal property. Our target customer are owners of boats, snowmobiles, ATVs, travel trailers, and motorhomes who need a place to be able to securely park and take care of their vehicles. So we feel that we do offer more than just the financial, you know, Rodney said we're not the best financial project for your city, but we do offer some huge economic benefits to your city, and we look forward to being part of the community. So respectfully, I ask for everyone to vote yes for this permit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to confirm that we've got your address down at 2219 Caldwell Boulevard, Nampa.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And then Butch, we have you listed, but you've spoken, and we will have you back as an applicant at the end. The next group that are signed up are people that are in opposition to this particular project. And the first person on is Rosemary Nelson. Rosemary, go ahead and share, state your name and your address, and then thank you for joining us, and then your timing will be with our clerk. So let's see, are you still there with us?
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hi, Rose. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hi, Rosemary, we can hear you.
Oh, I can hear you, Mayor. How are you, Mayor? Good evening.
Good, thank you, and we can hear you.
Okay. Can you see me?
Nope, but we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, Mayor. I'm just hoping that I won't break down like I did the last time. I actually wrote some notes, and I'm hoping that will be within my 3 minutes. My apologies if I cry or break down, but anyways, wow, I feel like I'm competing with a huge thing here, but I hope I don't offend anybody. So,
Right, let's start, Rosemary. Rosemary, before you start, we've got background noise, and I'm not sure where that's coming from. So could everyone mute their phones with the exception of the applicant? I think that took care of it. And Rosemary, before you start, go ahead and state your address.
Okay, I hear some background noise, someone talking, but my address is 11911 West Buteo Drive in Napa.
Thank you, Rosemary. So hang on just one second. Do you know, Rodney, can you mute whoever it is that's speaking?
I actually think it might be, Rosemary, if you're streaming the video live online, there sometimes is a delay. Is that happening?
No, I hear a lady speaking and some other people speaking.
Yes.
Someone saying yes, no.
And Mr. Fleck, I want to say thank you for investing in the community.
So this is the delayed, somehow that's streaming back to us, the current meeting we're in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
I would say if you've got a computer, turn off your speakers.
these two, we do have a number of people wanting to testify. In fact, I think
it's me.
I don't know how to do that, Rodney. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I would like to suggest
I don't know how to do that.
for about
Well, maybe I'll just
Let me try just muting her and see if we get any sound. Yeah, I believe it's Rosemary. So I think she's going to need to go into her computer and
turn her listening volume down.
Yeah, turn the speakers off.
Yes, turn the volume down, Rosemary.
And then, Rosemary, you'll need to unmute yourself again after I muted you.
Okay, she may not be able to hear us if we're too low.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can. Perfect.
I can't hear you at all.
That's
I
okay.
could just see you shake your head, but I can't hear you.
You're good. You can speak to us.
Okay. Well, before my minute is up, if it's okay with you, Mayor, and all the council, I kind of wrote a note so I could be within my 3 minutes. And my apologies if I break down again or cry or whatever I do, but I hope I do a better job this time. Okay, so my 3 minutes will start pretty soon. Okay, my family and I are residents of the city of Napa. We also own and operate a small RV, boat, and storage business. This business has been in the city of Napa for many decades and has contributed to the city and other businesses. Our business is adjacent to the proposed project. I would like to see if the mayor and council members had the opportunity to go over my memo, my letter, and the moratorium, because to my opinion, these are crucial points to be considered with regards to this proposed permit. The approval of the proposed project will impact not just our facility, but also the nearby facility. I have submitted a list or a map of all the other storages that are close by. There will be a loss of business viability to the storage facility as well as to ours, because we abut to the property and we are neighbors. If you can read the paragraph 1025.4 paragraph 1 of 2 of the general permit, it shows that it will show our negative liability, or however it says there. Also, I would like to bring up the moratorium of June 2019. On my packet that I submitted, I highlighted the concerns the city had. What happened to these concerns? Because these concerns is a result of what's happening right now. Also, when I read the applicant's appeal letter, it stated that the applicant worked very closely with the city during the moratorium. And reading the PNC report, I learned that council removed a critical ordinance for storage facilities. That's the buffer zone of the minimum spaces. So my question is, why wasn't I given the opportunity to voice my opinion? I truly believe if council knew that the applicant needed this for his project, council would have given us at least an opportunity to voice our concern. Councilman Bernin, on the last hearing, I saw the passion that you had about the church when you asked about the church, if they were given notice or if there was any comments. Also reading the applicant letter on item 3, the applicant doesn't know our business. Our business is an RV and boat and storage. In fact, our larger units that are not showing on our website, we have tenants that store vehicles, and we also have tradesmen that store large equipment like carpet sinks, toilets, scaffoldings. I'm saying this because the unit size stated on the applicant's letter are size units that we have. I don't believe the city can issue a permit making the applicant exclusively rent RV boats in these enclosed units. Also on the appeal letter mentioned, Mr. Henry said that he has an alike RV boat business. And per his website, he also offers storages. Hence, if it's an enclosed storage with a door, it's a storage facility, and he's proposing to put, 290 plus units. Finally, on item 3 and 5 on the appeal letter, I believe that it's flawed because the section 1025.4 corresponds to that. In my personal opinion, this land has better usage than the proposed project, like the apartment buildings that was once approved. It will make more affordable.
Deborah Rosen, mute.
What? No. What?
Rosemary, your time is up, please.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No one said. Hello?
Hi, Rosemary.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hope I could get all that. I'm not a public speaker. This is so passionate to me, guys. I am so sorry. And I haven't offended anybody. I'm not meaning to offend anybody. I'm just fighting for my livelihood and my business. That's all I'm doing.
Oh, you are fine, Rosemary. And so we just thought we just have to be fair. So we thought we would at least notify you. So thank you so much. I appreciated your comments. And then is Richard there? Because he is listed next to speak.
Yes, I think he can go on can he speak here? Can you hear Richard?
There's background noise. We can't even hear them.
Mayor, we can't hear him. There's background noise playing.
Somebody's playing music.
Somebody's playing music in the background.
I think it's coming through the Nelsons because I've looked at every single person on and everyone's muted. And so I'm not sure what the challenge is there, but we could hear testimony, which was good.
Mayor, I think they're streaming the video live, and on that streaming, it's behind, and so we're hearing what has already happened in this meeting. So if they can...
No, that was music.
We're hearing music in the background.
Well, we can hear music also.
That was during the break. So Mark plays music during break.
My son just came in, Rodney, and he's a computer guy, and he did something to it, and I think I don't hear the music now. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. So is Richard there? Would he like to speak for a moment?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here, and I'm just going to make the statement here. This business is going to be in direct competition with our business. And I received this notice that this hearing was going to take place last Tuesday. 3 days prior to that, I had to go in for an emergency operation and I am not prepared to go forward with this right now. So I'm going to respectfully ask that the application is either denied or this is tabled for 2 weeks so I can seek legal representation on this.
Okay, so Richard, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I have not had enough time. Less than 5 working days is not enough time to be able to prepare for this.
There's so much legal stuff in that letter and what Rodney say that you cannot deny. We just don't know what to do, Mayor. I mean, like I said, when there was ordinance that were removed that was beneficial for the and this is what I see. This is why we just need time. We don't know what the legality. We've been thrown with so much legal works. Mayor, we came here. I mean, we were part of the moratorium. We came to you and we told them that we're going to build a storage facility. Then the moratorium happened, and then during the moratorium, they removed an ordinance that was going to benefit this. And all I asked is for an opportunity to come and to speak to you, because I know you guys are really fair. Why weren't we given the opportunity? What happened with all the dry estates, the number of facilities, everything else? That's all. We just want to table in and we want to see what happens, Mayor. That's all what we want to ask. We put so much money. We put all our savings, and we cannot sell this business. It's going to kill Cartridge Storage, a business that's been in for many years. It's going to kill. Who's going to buy a business when you see a huge RV? And I disagree. Butch never, Mr. Henry never came. He only came once. He came and saw my son, and he came once. He's never met Richard. It never. Our units, biggest units is 10 by 28, 10 by 30, what they're proposing. And again,
Rosemary, thank you. You know what? I know this is extremely hard, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your comments. So only because I have to be fair in how we walk through this.
Okay.
And I feel for you.
I'm so sorry, Mayor.
No, you're fine.
Totally, and I'm sorry because as much money as the applicants, we have also put all our money. My letter shows, and we were blindsided the way that they did, and we just did everything. I wish, and I'm so stupid, I wish that I would have gone to all the planning every time there was a storage, so I could voice, and I voiced what small storages do. I wish I could have done, and I hate my stupidity. I really do. So I'm sorry, Mayor. So I'm sorry, and I know our time is over.
Ask the table it for 2
You're fine, Rosemary. I think our next person, we have a couple more people signed up in opposition this evening. And so the next person we have signed up is Steve Savage, followed by Donna Savage, and I think you're both on. And we've got you down at 7749 West, and Opahanga Lane.
Yeah, very good.
I'm sorry, I totally messed that up.
Yeah.
Hello, Mayor. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Well, my name is Steve Savage. I've been a real estate broker for over 30 years, and I actually sold this property to the Nelsons a few years ago. And I want to talk a little bit about property value. Over the years, I've sold over 1,000 properties. And just an example, a single family home that's near a busy road or an apartment building or a graveyard, that affects the value of that property, as well as how easy it is to sell that property. And I believe firmly that if you allow this project to go forward, this is going to have a devastating impact on the Nelsons' property value and also their ability to resell. And we did our due diligence when we bought the building. We went to the city, and the city said that they'd been permitted for housing, which seemed to be an appropriate use for that property, Mayor. But we never thought in 1,000 years that another storage facility would be built right next door. And as you know, it's right next door, right across the chain link fence. And this property fronts to a busy street. And as you know, the Nelson's property is back behind the auto shop. And I believe that what's going to happen is if this goes forward, their business is going to become effectively invisible. What I mean is people are going to drive by and just assume that that small section of it is part of the bigger building on the side. And they do have larger units, by the way, and they are in direct competition with the Nelsons. But should this go through, this will make the Nelsons' ability to resell this property, you know, it'll be very, very difficult for them to resell this. No investor will want to come in and buy this property once they take a look and see the footprint next door and they do the numbers. It's going to not only destroy the Nelsons' business immediately with the income on it, but it's going to make their property value go down, because when you value businesses, it's different than a single family residence. And no prudent investor would ever touch that if that monster and that's a 9-acre facility. Rosemary and Richard only have an acre, a little over an acre. You know, they're a small business, and you know, when the prior guy got on there and talked about him, kind of said they were combative and all. That's not true. The Nelsons are nice. They're good people. They're good Christian people, and he kind of made it sound like they're combative. They want to fight. They don't want to fight. They just want to thrive and survive. And I just hope that the city council, mayor, that you guys look at this and that you protect them. They are nice people, and they deserve. Literally, what's happening here is this guy wants to build their direct competition right next to them. He'll crush them. He'll crush this little family business, and that would be a shame. So I just ask that you take that into consideration when you think of this other places this guy can build property. There's lots of land around here. You know, he doesn't have to build it right on top of another storage facility. And as far as I'm concerned, there's too many darn storage facilities in Nampa anyways, really. Mm-hmm. But that's what I wanted to say. And I just also want to reemphasize the fact that they don't have, because the other guy, he referred to their unit as mini storage. It's not mini storage. They have big units that people park cars in. And if you look along the fence line, there's trailers, RVs, boats. So it's a direct competition to them. And this guy that's building this place, we all know that if he rents out one of those things, he's going to let whoever rents that put whatever they want inside of them. They're closed buildings, you know. So it's not like we all just fell off the turnip truck here. So I pray that you guys would look out for the Nelsons and all small businesses for that matter. But anyways, that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mayor. And it's been a long night for you guys, I know. So.
I know. Good job, guys. I'll try.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Donna, thank you. So you're next.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
My name is Donna Savage. Madam Mayor and council members, I'd like to thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. And I trust that you will carefully consider how your very important decision this evening will affect the Nelsons' livelihood and their family's future. This is a family we're talking about. Steve and I sold the Nelsons Karcher Storage. The applicant's proposed project is directly behind the Nelsons property, which is a self-storage that includes RV and boat parking. Karcher Storage has been serving the community for decades, including boat and RV storage. I included or uploaded a couple of the prior owners' leases so you could see that it has that language in there, RV and boat storage. And the Nelsons' current leases also have RV and boat storage in them, so that is direct competition. And they do have larger units. What the applicant was looking at were units that were available. All their larger units were already taken. So anyway, with that being said, the Nelsons never dreamed the city would consider allowing the exact same business to build directly behind their business. And approving the CUP would be devastating. It would adversely affect the property value and their income. This direct negative effect could possibly bankrupt a small business such as the Nelsons. To me, it would seem criminal to approve a CUP, as it would rob the Nelsons of potential income. So the Nelsons have owned property in Nampa actually for many years. Recently they've sold everything they own in other states to buy Karcher Storage and live full-time in Nampa and invest in the community, including the hiring of local contractors, employees, etc. The Nelsons take great pride, I have to say, great pride in the community and their business. They've invested an extensive amount of cash to upgrade their business. and again, hiring local people. Approving the CUP would be in direct conflict and would adversely affect the abutting property belonging to the Nelsons. Approval would cause a major decline in the Nelsons' property value and would be devastating to their income. Approval could potentially cause them to go out of business and lose everything that they've invested. And I'm not joking, as their friend, I've seen what they've gone through and what they've invested in this community. The Nelsons' income has already been negatively affected by the reckless overbuilding of so many storage facilities right near there. In my opinion, allowing approval of this project would be a newsworthy event. And small business owners currently in Nampa, and all people thinking of opening a small business and investing in Nampa, should know the city council how the city council conducts their business, and how small business owners may possibly be put out of business due to a poor decision. However, I currently believe with all my heart that the city of Nampa does support local business. I've seen it. They support local business owners, and I truly trust the city council will protect the Nelson small business and make the right decision to deny the CUP and prevent the applicant from building the exact same business on top of the Nelson's business. So thank you, and thanks for all you do. I know you guys have had a long night tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for testifying tonight. It's appreciated. Thank you very much. So the next person that is signed up in opposition is Jana Lee Allred, and Jana Lee is 1772 Mesa Springs Avenue in Nampa. And I don't see Jana Lee on, and she did not sign up to actually speak, but she did want to be noted as opposing this project. The next person that is also on is Chris Calignon, I believe, and he resides at 611 18th Avenue North, Nampa. And also I did not see that he intended to speak, but did want to be noted as in opposition to this particular application. I want to make sure, even though I didn't see them on, I want to pause just a second to make sure that I didn't miss them if they are on. And I'm pause for just a second. Yeah, and I don't see them, and I don't believe, but they are so noted as in opposition to this, what's proposed. The next person is Aaron Lafke, at 504 Caldwell Boulevard, Nampa. And Aaron did note that was interested in speaking, but I'm not sure if Aaron is on. Aaron, are you on this call?
Yes, Mayor, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you. Thank you for being patient.
Well, yeah, thanks for hanging in there yourself.
Thank you. Well, go ahead and give your address. I think I did, but I'll let you repeat it and then you can share with us.
Yeah, Aaron Lafke. I own and operate Big Storage located at 504 Caldwell Boulevard in Napa. I'll be brief since the late hour. I just want to make a couple points. There was a letter written by the applicant on March 13th, and part of that letter was raising the issue that this is somehow a constitutional claim if they're denied a CUP. The applicant reiterated that claim again tonight in their oral testimony. I would just like to contribute that this is in no way a constitutional taking. There are numerous permitted outright uses which are more economically viable than what the applicant is proposing. In no way is just a simple denial of this application a takings. Another thing that was in their letter on March 13th was the suggestion that they worked closely with staff during the moratorium to craft the language that they're now attempting to use. And I find that at odds with the result of the moratorium, in that through work sessions and numerous meetings and data collection, staff came up with language that was then presented to the council, and at the 12th hour or the 11th hour was essentially gutted of the buffer that staff had come up with, and that was with the guidance of the work sessions with both Planning Commission and city council. And so I'm not sure who they worked with, but staff had a very much more restrictive proposal in front of the council at the end of the year to deal with these kinds of issues that you were talking about tonight. In fact, this project was the impetus for the moratorium itself. And so it's ironic that we're now back here talking about it. I just want to speak very briefly about the criteria that you have to judge an application by that Rodney has articulated already tonight. And the last three of those criteria, 3, 4, and 5, are they really speak to the subjective nature of what decision you have to make. And the council has already been presented with a mountain of evidence, including the data that says that Napa currently has 3 times the national average of available storage space. And essentially what that says is that you don't have to build another storage facility for the next 20 years and you'll have adequate supply. Being that we do operate a facility, we're seeing declines in rent, increases in vacancy, and our property taxes have gone from about $50,000 a year to well over $90,000 this year. And there are a number of appeals ongoing in the court system about the valuations of storage. So to add another facility to the mix doesn't seem to make any sense. And it's very hard to judge this application because I don't know if we're talking about 100,000 square feet of storage or if we're talking about 200,000 square feet of storage. And Rosemary is correct in that once there's a door on a building, you don't know what's going in it. And we do have units that are the similar size, about 400 square feet, that would be in direct competition with what this applicant is proposing. So I would just ask you to carefully look over the criteria that Rodney has articulated, the subjective parts about does this serve a basic community function? And what the data would suggest is no, it does not, in that there's a surplus. We have 3 times the national average of storage available. And the applicant has a burden of proof. In other words, they haven't brought you anything that says, gee, there's a real demand out there that we really need to meet. In other words, it's not incumbent upon the opposition to prove that. You've already seen the data. So I would think it might be appropriate to, if you were considering approving this, at least ask for some data support that the community really needs this. And I'll conclude my statement with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lafke. I appreciate your comments. So the next person that has signed up that is opposed is Linda Hudson, and she resides at 2112 Caldwell Boulevard. And I do not see that she is on the call, and she had not signed up to testify, but she did want to be noted as in opposition this evening. And then the last person that we have listed is Noah Evans, listed at 120 South Pine Street in Nampa. And I did not see Mr. Evans on the call. Rodney, if I'm missing them, please let me know. But they also at the time indicated that they did not necessarily want to speak, but they did want to be noted as in opposition to this project this evening. That is the end of who we have signed up to testify tonight. Just for the applicants, just so you know that once you have testified, you don't necessarily, in public hearing, you don't get to come back a second time. And so, but I would like to make sure that there isn't someone waiting tonight that had expected to speak that we have missed. Is there anyone on the call that we've missed this evening? Okay, so I don't see anyone. So at this time, this is the opportunity for the applicant to come back and respond to the comments that they have heard this evening and give us any closing comments. And so who's going to speak on behalf of the applicant? Is it Mr. Henry?
Yes, I will.
Okay,
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to comment A couple of things. I wanted to speak to the traffic that Council Levi asked about, and I concur with staff that we have worked with the state of Idaho and Canyon County regarding the traffic count and traffic studies, and it's factual that this project would soften traffic in the area. So that's a good thing. And that meets the 3 to 5 questions that we've been talking about for the last half an hour. I'd like to say that we have met more than twice with the Nelsons. I haven't directly met Mr. Nelson. He wasn't there, but certainly Mrs. Nelson and the son have been in numerous meetings that we had to meet with them and try to work together to understand the opportunities that we could share going forward as complementary type of projects. You can go on the websites and our websites and you can see the significant difference in the type of buildings that we build, the types of projects that we have in the local communities, and you can certainly see that they're materially different than the footprint that the Nelsons have at their facility. About 5 years ago, my wife and I actually toured that facility and were considering purchasing that property, but then it wasn't in our prerequisite for what we wanted to do, but the adjacent property was an opportunity, and we ended up purchasing that property last year. I will be available to address any questions that the council has, if they have direct questions for us, as your last applicant was allowed to address questions directly. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. So council, I would like to ask if you have any questions for our applicant. I'm sorry. I think what I do want to do is, and I apologize, I had forgotten about this, but I do want to give our legal counsel an opportunity to make a comment at some point to give us an idea of really what we're doing tonight and the decisions that we're making. And so, Darrell, I'll let you finish your question real quickly, and then I may defer over before we step into discussion to Mark Hilty.
Mayor, I just have one question for Mr. Henry. And of course, I am not in the storage business, and to tell you the truth, I've never rented a storage. But what I'm hearing from other storage owners is that you and your dear wife have said that you're going to be doing nothing but boats and RVs. If you are not selling out all those storage units that you have, is what you're promising and committing to is that you're not going to be using those storage areas for other means other than boats and RVs?
Well, thank you for your question. Our policy is really clear. We develop these sites for both auto, boat, and RV storage. There's a difference in the liability required when you're storing personal property versus boats, RVs, and things like that. It's material, and our contracts are written to accommodate the difference in the liability. So our management team fully understands that they do not lease out to personal property folks. We just don't do it. That's our policy. We don't do it. And it's not an economical question. It's a policy question. We don't need to compete with the walk-up storage folks. There's ample walk-up storage, folks, in the area. We understand that. All we need to do is call and find out feasibility-wise. We can call, and anybody that we call will tell us they don't have boat, RV, and auto storage. And that's why we're going. The market is driving it. The folks that have been, that are in the business, have been talking about walk-up storage. It's a complete different animal than what we have. And the Nelsons next door, they have a few spots where outdoors on the gravel, they could park an RV or a boat, but that is not in competition with a facility that has and that's not being critical of what they offer. It's just the difference is when you have an asphalt layout under a canopy, that is materially different than putting your RV out on a gravel lot. Everybody knows that. Hope that answers your question.
Okay. And actually, I would like to go ahead and open it. Are there any other questions from the council for the applicant before we close public hearing?
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry, tapped too many times. So I do have a question for the applicant, and I'm looking at the staff report. Whoops, just one moment. Let me pull it up so I can use it exactly. Under the potential motion, number 3 on page 6, it says the storage units will be used for boat and RV storage and related items. And a few times in the opposition testimony tonight, I heard concerns about once you put a door on and the door goes down, it's hard to control what's inside the storage unit. So I want to believe that most people would be honest and they would use it for, as it says, RV storage and related items. But related items become subjective, and I believe that's where it becomes concerning for area businesses that are in competition and the public in general. So, like, are you going to police this? I mean, how is that enforced, to give us a little bit of encouragement?
Thank you for your question, and let me address that again. If you are bringing personal items, you're attempting to bring personal items, household goods, for example, clothing, baby carriages, the normal things that are in walk-up storage. If you are attempting to bring those into our facility, our manager will come out and ask you to remove those. Okay, you're not allowed to do that. It's an agreement that we have with our clients. Okay, so they're not allowed to do that. The related items that are probably likely talked about would be, let's say you own a motor, a boat, a large boat, and you have a kicker motor on the back of it, and you want to store your kicker motor behind an enclosed unit while you have your boat out in an open storage unit. We allow that. Okay, it's complementary to your boat. Maybe your oars, maybe your water skis, things like that. Okay, those are allowed to be stored behind a door, but your personal items from your home are not allowed. We don't have insurance to cover that, and that's why we have that in our policies and procedures. I hope that's answered your question.
Thank you, and I understand the intent, but I'm thinking of, if people drive in with their motorhome and they just happen to leave things in there and have some things in there, there isn't a way for you to know that. And I believe that's what's addressing some of the concerns that are being brought up.
Well, there is, because we have full coverage of cameras on our properties. Okay, we have policy and procedure. Think about, we often get a question about people living on our property, right? And we monitor that because we can see them coming and going. So if somebody parks their mobile home or their motor coach in our property and they plug it into our electrical outlets, and then all of a sudden they're going in and out of the gate 3 or 4 times a day, or they're using the restroom, we can see them on the camera. It's pretty easy to figure out that they're not following our policies and procedures. And our manager goes out and says, "Hey, Mr. Customer, I've observed your behavior. It doesn't meet our policies and procedures. We need you to not do that anymore." And the same kind of thing happens with personal property, walk-up storage trying to come in to boat and RV storage. It would be like, okay, so that we just don't see that. It doesn't happen in the industry.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council, do you have any other questions for the applicant before we close public hearing? Okay, so hearing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved. This is Darrell.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So what I'd like to do is pause for just a second, and I think it's important before we move forward to the next action item to allow Mark Hilty to remind us. Rodney went through and shared the guidelines for what we're deciding tonight with this CUP. And I would like to ask Mark Hilty if he can remind us what authority, the basis for a decision. And so Mark, could you share with us as we have concluded this public hearing? This is a tough public hearing. And so would you please share with us really how we need to base our decision?
Certainly, Mayor, thank you. And Rodney did a good job of going over the criteria. And as always, your planning staff puts those criteria in their staff report. And so for reference, they begin on page 3 of the staff report and continue on to a part of page 5. There was much testimony tonight, and I know there was last time this was considered also testimony about the impact on the viability or the revenue generation for an adjoining business. Because that was a concern and because it came up last time, I did want to address that. There is nothing in these criteria that allow or permit the City Council or the Planning and Zoning Commission to wield land use authority in a way that favors one business or enterprise over another. And I, with all due respect to Ms. Savage, she did talk about the 3rd criteria where it talks about the impact. You can consider the impact of this use on adjoining properties. But when you read what that criteria really means, it talks about the livability or the appropriate development of surrounding properties. It is not there to allow you to favor one business over another in your decision. So from a legal standpoint, you're certainly free to consider the facts that you've heard in the testimony in terms of how you vote on this. I would certainly ask you to evaluate those facts based on criteria 1 through 5 on pages 3 and 4 of your staff report. But it's simply not appropriate for this body to choose winners and losers in the marketplace. You've got businesses and professions and industries that are in competition with each other, including yours and mine, all across the city. And we allow the free market to determine success and failure in those. We don't use the land use power for that purpose. So just wanted to make that clear. I'm certainly not suggesting how you should decide, but you should not be making your decision based on a desire to help one business at the expense of another. With that, Mayor, I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mark. Council, do you have any questions for Mark Hilty for our legal? I appreciate your clarification of that. I think it's important. So,
Mayor?
Yes.
I do have a question for Mark. As I've been looking back and pondering on the staff report in the very areas you referenced, and I'm looking on page 4 at number 3 again, and I've definitely read the heading for number 3. I've also read the subpoint A, and it seems to me that subpoint A reinforces that, and it talks about the livelihood or appropriate development of abutting properties and neighborhoods. And as you read further down, it talks about the same thing. And so I'm trying to sort that out in making this decision tonight.
Madam Mayor, Councilman Levi, the word is not livelihood, it's livability. And that carries with it the notion that is the occupancy of the property and the use of the property adversely affected if you approve an adjoining property. Here, the way I would apply that, what I think it means is you've got, is storage units appropriate in this area because there are storage units adjacent? And will the development of the new storage unit adversely affect the ability to use the adjoining property for that same purpose? So again, I don't think it's speaking to the financial viability of adjoining uses, but simply whether the adjoining development would somehow affect livability, which is really a word that applies more to residential uses, or the appropriate development of surrounding property.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a big decision, and actually, I would like to suggest that we possibly postpone a final decision tonight due to the lateness of the night. I think it's a big decision and it's very late, and we want to make wise decisions. And so I would defer to the council.
I'll make that motion that we defer to the next hearing a decision on this matter, so that would give us a chance to have some clarity of thought to go into the decision that we'll be making.
Second.
And could we state the date certain is the next council meeting?
That would be, yeah, I'll make that motion. Yes, thank you.
Mayor, this discussion is prior to the 18th. Is there any way that economic development or our planning folks can come up with? I'm interested in supply and demand in any type of business. So what I'm being told two different things. That we know there's too many storage sheds. I think we'll all admit to that. The question is there a demand for RVs and boats, storage units? And that's what I don't have an answer to. And so, I mean, I would just be interested in knowing, and if somebody can do a little research, maybe it's already been done, but how many storage units in the city of Nampa are there for RVs and boats?
Okay, we will ask staff to do that. I would like to mention that and this goes for both of the public hearings that we're postponing a decision on, that during these next 2 weeks, it is my understanding that we as council and mayor cannot have discussions with the applicants or with anyone regarding this particular hearing. Mark Hilty, I'd like for you to speak to this, because we have 2 public hearings that we're pausing on until the next council meeting to make a final vote decision on. And if I understand correctly, we're not to be having contact with the applicants during that time. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct, Mayor. These are both quasi-judicial proceedings, and any communication with representatives from either side, or even if the council were to engage in its own fact-finding or investigation, would be inappropriate. The information you use to decide needs to be presented at the hearing. And in that vein, Mayor, with this one, we have closed the public testimony portion of the hearing. If there is additional information that's brought forward from staff regarding the inventory of storage units and so forth, as Councilman Brunner requested, you will need to let those who have testified address in testimony whatever additional information is presented.
Does that mean we have to reopen and post another public hearing since this one is closed? Or how do you handle that?
Sure, and it is confusing. Technically, Mayor, the hearing, I know that was the nature of the motion. What really was closed was the public testimony portion of the hearing. The deliberation you're engaged in now is technically also part of the hearing. So we are continuing this hearing, but you would need to reopen the public testimony portion to receive additional evidence. And then the further testimony would be limited to those who have testified and would be limited to testimony relevant to whatever the additional information is that's received from staff concerning, how many storage units we have and supply and demand, as Councilman Brunner asked for.
Mayor Kling?
Oh, yes.
I believe I made a motion to postpone this till the next hearing. I think there was a second. Yes. This additional information that was requested was not a part of my motion. So do I need to pull my motion for that to be allowed, or can we just go ahead and call for the vote on the motion that was made?
I think we can call for the vote on the motion that was made because that was discussion and you've not amended your motion.
Yes.
So
I would call for the vote then.
Okay. Because at this time, I don't know that we're going to reopen public testimony. So I will call for the vote unless, roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Hutchie?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Levi?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we have an agenda to go through yet. I want to pause before we step into the remaining agenda. And what I'd like to do is, we have an executive session following this particular meeting. I would like to ask council at this time if we, rather than stepping into executive session at the conclusion of this meeting, if you would be willing for us to schedule a special council meeting. It shouldn't take long to address the executive session item rather than doing it tonight because it is very late. Is that?
Support that. Yes.
Yes, please.
It'll be at the end of the day, and I want to say I apologize because I know that we're going to need some information, but I would suggest today's Monday. The soonest we could do it would be Thursday, end of day, because we have to have 24 hours notice.
Yeah. Mayor, question, and then maybe it's a legal question. Is there some reason why the remaining action items could not be postponed to that same date where we would continue this hearing and then have the executive session?
I think that is a brilliant idea.
Now, I've never been accused of that, but I'm just wondering if it's legal. So
I like the idea. It is really, really late. And from a legal standpoint, I guess I would ask, you know what? Beth, I know you've got CDBG items. Can we postpone those for until a special meeting in a couple of days?
Mayor, I believe we can. My only question would be to Matt Jamison on if that delays us into the second council meeting of June to make a final authorization of those things.
Well, we would be doing it probably on Thursday.
Oh, yeah, I thought I heard Thursday. I'm fine with Thursday.
Okay.
I think Parks is fine, probably as well.
Okay.
Sorry about that, Matt. Okay.
It was, I sat through, it was good. It was a riveting night. I love it.
So, Mark Hilty, is it, I can't think of any reason, am I missing something, that we can't postpone the remaining agenda until the special council meeting that we will schedule for Thursday afternoon?
No, Mayor, I can't speak to the urgency of any of these things, but it's perfectly legal to put them all.
Okay. And then I'm going to pause and ask council if I would anticipate that meeting to take approximately an hour, and could we schedule a meeting on Thursday, the 7th at 5 p.m.
I'll be working, Mayor, till 6:15.
6:15?
Yeah,
Okay. And what time do you start?
7:30. It's one of my heavy days. Friday, I could do any day, all day Friday. Or what? Sorry.
Okay, what's the will of the council? We could do Friday morning at 8. Or
Mayor, we have the chamber update with the hospitals at 8.
At 8, okay.
Mayor, how are we set for 6:45 on Thursday? 6:45 p.m.
I'm good. Are we all good?
That works for me.
I'll have to check. I might have to miss it, but I'll let you know.
Okay, Debbie's gonna have to post it tomorrow, so could you let us know first thing in the morning?
Yes, and if you have to carry on without me, that's what has to be done.
Well, we'll have to see, because with Victor out, I think, I'm not sure, Mark, can we function on 4?
It's a quorum.
Yeah, 4 is a quorum.
It is a quorum.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Sandy, I hope you can join us, and I think what I'd like to suggest is that we go with Thursday evening at, can we do 6:30?
Yeah,
I know that'll push you a little bit.
that's good.
Okay, 6:30, and Debbie, if you would just go ahead and adjust the agenda that all the new business items session moves over.
I will get that done.
Thank you. So at this time, I would like to stand for a motion to adjourn, as long as I'm not missing anything.
No move.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Darrell, I'm so glad you thought of postponing the rest of the agenda.